Yu City served as the best evidence. Years ago, he had embedded his influence in Tubo. Ha ha ha. Today I finally see through you, Cheng Chumo. You truly possess remarkable patience. You outlasted Li Shimin. You are the contemporary Sima Yi. I, Songzhan Ganbu, concede. All troops retreat. He commanded, tears glistening in his eyes. It was frustrating to think that when he had first arrived in the Great Tang, he had been captured by Cheng Chumo upon reaching Fufeng County. Today, the situation remained unchanged. Cheng Chumo never afforded him the chance to showcase his abilities. Were it not for Cheng Chumo, were it not for Ryu City, Songzhan Ganbu believed he could have quelled the internal rebellion. He was filled with resentment, yet felt utterly powerless. The Tubo army began to withdraw. Cheng Chumo did not intervene. Their artillery could not keep pace with them. To capture them would require waiting for Wang Xuanca and his men to arrive. That would be the moment of decisive battle. Upon returning to the royal city, Songzhan Ganbu encountered Princess Chizuan. She was singing a song learned from the waterside villa in Gansu. A delightful melody that he would recommend to all. Even now, despite the wounds this world has inflicted upon me, I shall still praise the sun, she hummed. Songzhan Ganbu fell silent, pondering the perils of cultural invasion. If even his queen were influenced in such a manner, how would others fare? A bitter smile crossed his lips. Is there even a need for battle? He asked. Princess Chizuan, enchanted by her singing, was displeased by his interruption. Why must you be so cruel, my king? People are crying, she said, her eyes reddening. Songzhan Ganbu took her hand. In these dire times for Tubo, must you continue to sing as if nothing is amiss? He remarked. Princess Chizuan pouted, her expression one of discontent. My lord, engaging in war with the Tang dynasty is a grave mistake. Do you possess even the slightest chance of victory? It is merely a facade, a pretense of strength, she advised. At this moment, she felt compelled to counsel Songzhan Ganbu. What is war, if not a balance of power? The conflict between Tubo and the Tang is not war. It is an invitation to demise. But when Cheng Chumo strikes, I must resist, Songzhan Ganbu replied. Upon saying this, he seated himself on a stool, with Chizuan perched upon his lap. My lord, I have advised you to adopt a resolute determination. You have been king for some time now. Why does the institution of slavery persist? If the slave owners oppose you, will you not eradicate them? Chizuan, being forthright, spoke her mind without reservation. Songzhan Ganbu remained silent, for Chizuan was the only one who dared to speak candidly before him. With his arms encircling her waist, he inquired, I require 3 years. Can you persuade your father to send troops? Chizuan gently nodded. I shall return and attempt to convince him, though I cannot guarantee success, she remarked. Feeling somewhat reassured, Chizuan considered that Naboluo could muster 100,000 cavalry, which would allow them to leverage their numerical advantage to slow Cheng Chumo's advance. Rising, she gazed affectionately at Songzhan Ganbu. My lord, I will leave at once. You must wait for my return, she said, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. She feared that Songzhan Ganbu would not endure until she could return with reinforcements. He nodded, and Chizuan set off. 2 months later, upon her return to Naboluo, she sensed something amiss as she entered the royal city. Why were the guards Tang soldiers? Arriving at the palace, she was taken aback to see her father bowing obsequiously before a man. General Chibi Helu. I am quite familiar with both General Wang Xuanca and Marshal Wang Yuan. We are allies. There is no need for violence, the king of Naboluo stated. Chibi Helu's countenance darkened. This was his last time commanding troops, entrusted with the finest special forces by Cheng Chumo. He was determined to shed blood. Enough of your prattle. Assemble the Naboluo army immediately. We shall engage in battle. Chibi Helu commanded. The king of Naboluo, with a wry smile, replied, how can we fight? Our forces are no match for the 60,000 elite Tang cavalry. Princess Chizuan stared in disbelief at this scene, unable to hold back her tears. That dark-faced man is a bully. Woe is me. You torment me, and my sister is Guanin's maid. I shall certainly report this to Gansu. She sobbed. Chibi Helu was taken aback. Is this girl truly the sister of Empress Changsun? He thought, feeling a shiver run down his spine. Are you referring to the Gansu waterside villa? He asked. Humph. You wait. I will tell my sister how you bully my father. Even my father has acquiesced to you. And yet you persist in your aggression. Chizuan declared, crying bitterly. She was indeed capable of such defiance, as she had often exchanged barbs with Cheng Chumo, who relished that dynamic, considering her a kindred spirit. Chapter 328. Princess Chizuan's proposal. Chibi Helu began to panic. A loyal soldier pulled him aside. Do not fear. I recognize her. She is the queen of Songzhan Ganbu. Capturing her will surely please our lord, as she shares a history with him, he said. A glimmer of excitement appeared in Chibi Helu's eyes as he turned to Chizuan. She, however, lifted her skirt and ran, but before she could escape the hall, special forces blocked her path. They recognized her, recalling how she had stubbornly lingered in the military camp. Hey brother, have you eaten? There's nothing good in Naboluo. You should return, Chizuan said, attempting to squeeze past them. However, she was seized and dragged back. She dared not struggle or cry, for they were unyielding to tears. Please, don't be like this. I have maidservants to offer you. I can give them all to you, she pleaded, attempting to bribe the soldiers. They ignored her entreaties. Chibi Helu laughed heartily. Chizuan shot him a fierce glare. Do not be so arrogant. I will surely tell my sister how you bully my father. Even he has submitted to you. she retorted defiantly. Turning to the special forces, she quickly put on a conciliatory smile. Brother, please let me go. I can walk on my own. Dragging me is exhausting for you, she insisted. Her swift change in demeanor left Chibi Helu momentarily stunned. Did this girl believe she was easy to subdue? He guessed correctly. Princess Chizuan thought Chibi Helu was as manageable as Chung Chumo. Only the special forces were truly intimidating, as they were capable of lethal force. Enough of this nonsense. What brings you back? One of the special forces demanded. Chizuan promptly complied, divulging everything Songzan Ganbu had instructed her to convey. I've told you everything. I haven't lied, she insisted, wearing a pleasing expression. The special forces, however, were indifferent to her flattery. You'd best remain quiet. If you continue to waste time, I will not hesitate to discipline you, they warned. Chizuan immediately fell silent, obediently following behind them like a well-behaved child, acquiescing to their every command. The king of Naboluo, observing this, was incredulous. He knew how headstrong and willful his daughter could be. What had transpired to render her so meek? Feeling a swell of emotion, he wiped away a tear, lamenting his daughter's misfortunes. Princess Chizuan hurried to comfort her father. You must not cry, father. They are special forces, and they are capable of great violence, she said, her face etched with concern. The king, feeling a chill, quickly composed himself, halting his tears. The loyal soldier and Chibi Helu conferred on their next course of action. I believe we should masquerade as the Naboluo army to assist Songzan Ganbu. Once we enter the city, the Tubo troops will be at our mercy, the soldier proposed. Chibi Helu disagreed, asserting that they should engage the Tubo forces in earnest, decisively subduing them. After much deliberation, they turned their attention to the special forces. The soldiers, disinterested in their strategic discourse, simply turned to leave. Once they departed, Princess Chizuan felt a wave of relief wash over her as she addressed the soldier and Chibi Helu. What you are doing is misguided. My lord cannot dare to fight you for a simple reason. He lacks artillery. You should lure him out. For instance, use my father's name to summon him. Once captured, hand him over to me, and I will lead him to surrender, she proposed. Chibi Helu and the loyal soldier exchanged glances, recognizing the brilliance of her suggestion. What a clever plan. Why do we not think of that? They exclaimed in unison. Let us proceed as she suggested. They gave Princess Chizuan a thumbs up, acknowledging her as a worthy partner to Songzan Ganbu, adeptly navigating the complexities of their situation. If anyone sought to negotiate with Songzan Ganbu, he would certainly attend. If the king of Naboluo summoned him, he would comply, fully aware that Naboluo safeguarded Tubo's rear flank. Should Naboluo side with the Tang, he would find himself beset on all fronts. Resolute, they set their plans into motion. Fujiang and Kabai Heli commanded the army to march forth. Not only were there 2 troops, but also the forces of Naboluo, amounting to a total of hundreds of thousands. The Naboluo army was under the command of Princess Chizuan, who rode with an air of pride, as though Fujiang and Kabai Heli were merely her subordinates. Kabai Heli and Fujiang did not dwell on this, as the king's voice echoed in their minds, urging them to hold steadfast and accompany him to Gansu to surrender to Sister Guanyin. Princess Chizuan contemplated the significance of this matter, as it represented the last bastion of the Tubo kingdom. The armies of the Tang dynasty were already encroaching upon the royal city, with local lords capitulating at every turn. The Tubo royal city had dug extensive tunnels, hiding 50 soldiers within. Wang Xuanzi refrained from ordering the bombardment of the royal city. Inside the palace, Songzan Ganbu wore a frown, while his ministers kept their heads bowed in silence. The more he observed, the angrier he became. Initially, when he advocated for the abolition of slavery, these scoundrels vehemently opposed him, and now they were mute. Did they not claim that the various regions could delay the advance of the Tang army? Gritting his teeth, Songzan Ganbu exclaimed, the first to surrender were not the slaves, but their masters. This was a revelation for him. Those who had opposed the abolition most fiercely were now silent, fearing the repercussions. Speak. Are you all mute? Songzan Ganbu thundered, unable to contain his frustration. A king, we should retreat. As long as we have the mountains, we shall not fear the lack of firewood, suggested a civil minister. Songzan Ganbu laughed in anger. Retreat? Cheng Chumo has not initiated an assault precisely to await our withdrawal. Once we retreat, the hearts of the Tubo people will be lost. Do you think we can regroup? Dream on. Leave me in peace. After the others departed, Songzan Ganbu forced a bitter smile, hoping for the arrival of the Naboluo forces. With 500,000 Tang soldiers, he had prepared the tunnels. Understanding that artillery alone had limited effectiveness, ultimately, it would come down to a contest of soldiers. If the Naboluo army could provide support, he still had a chance to defeat the Tang forces. In the Tang army camp, Wang Xuanzi was deploying his troops, commanding the artillery to commence bombardment. He understood the limited lethality of the cannons, yet felt it necessary to proceed as a form of intimidation. Cheng Chumo entered the tent with his hands clasped behind his back. Wang Xuanzi and the generals rose in respect, greeting him in unison. Cheng Chumo nodded. I have come to inform you that Tubo is not like the Turks. We must leave a glimmer of hope for the citizens within the city. Wang Xuanzi acknowledged this. Cheng Chumo did not elaborate further and departed. Wang Xuanzi had no choice but to abandon the plan to bombard the royal city. Commanding hot air balloons to ascend and distribute flyers throughout the city, instructing Songzhan Ganbu to allow the citizens to leave as the decisive battle commenced. Wang Xuanzi wrote only a few words, leaving the rest for Songzhan Ganbu to determine. If he refused to let the people exit, bombardment would be inevitable. Cheng Chimo had offered a chance for survival, and he had done his part. The rest was no longer his concern. Upon receiving the message, Songzhan Ganbu informed the entire city that the citizens could evacuate. However, there were only the slave masters remaining within the royal city. The common folk who wished to surrender had already done so, leaving behind only the diehards intent on guarding their wealth. 3 days later, the bombardment commenced. Boom. The artillery fire engulfed the entire Tubo royal city, continuing for a full day. Cheng Chimo ascended in the hot air balloon, using a telescope to survey the situation inside. These tunnels are quite impressive. Indeed, where there are policies above, there are countermeasures below, he mused. With the tunnels in place, the advance of the Tang army was impeded, preventing effective strikes. Cheng Chimo had no desire to experience tunnel warfare, which would be a losing battle. As the hot air balloon descended, a special forces soldier approached him. The two generals have already arrived within 30 miles, the soldier reported. Cheng Chimo understood immediately. Fujiang and Kabai Heli had taken control of Naboluo. We have also captured Princess Chizuan. The soldier added. Cheng Chimo was intrigued by her and smiled. Bring her to me. Half a day later, the special forces soldier escorted Princess Chizuan to the military camp. Initially apprehensive, she confronted Cheng Chimo. Humph. What do you intend to do, Cheng Chimo? Do not presume I fear you. Her demeanor was defiant. Cheng Chimo regarded her with amusement. She was indeed an interesting woman, unafraid of anyone except him. You have been captured once again. What do you have to say for yourself? He asked with a smile. Princess Chizuan held her head high. I came here of my own accord. You did not capture me, she retorted. Cheng Chimo was momentarily speechless, acknowledging her point. She had indeed returned voluntarily. He observed her closely, and she sensed the unwavering intensity of his gaze, prepared for a verbal spar. Cheng Chimo shook his head. In his youth, he had been impetuous, but now as an emperor, he refrained from engaging in such disputes, knowing it could lead to notoriety. He chose to ignore her, leaving Princess Chizuan feeling somewhat disappointed at not being able to insult him. How do you plan to deal with Songzhan Ganbu? She inquired. Cheng Chimo shook his head, uncertain of how to address the matter. The war had escalated beyond his control, and he had to consider the sentiments of the generals and soldiers. If he could minimize casualties, he could offer Songzhan Ganbu a princely title. However, the current situation was complicated. Let us discuss this after the battle. It is not the time for such considerations. You may move freely now, go. Cheng Chimo instructed. Understanding his intent, Princess Chizuan bowed deeply and felt gratitude in her heart. Cheng Chimo's granting of freedom was an invitation for her to seek assistance from someone who could persuade both the generals and him, providing a means for him to save face and offer the generals an explanation. As she departed, Wang Xuanzi and his colleagues devised various strategies to counter Songzhan Ganbu's tunnel warfare, which was exceptionally suited for Tubo. Water? Unfortunately, Tubo experiences little rainfall. Fire? Regrettably, Tubo's earth is notoriously thick, and the tunnels run deep. Beneath the royal city lies a vast underground network, with numerous entrances and exits. The Tang soldiers could only resort to blasting. No one would be foolish enough to enter through those openings, as it would be akin to a single warrior holding off 1,000 foes. After several days of deliberation, they were still at an impasse. Wang Xuanzi approached Cheng Chimo, who proposed a solution. If Songzhan Ganbu is trapped underground and cannot emerge, while we cannot enter, then focus on your tasks. Take control of Tubo's territories. The Tang dynasty shall expand its reach into the western regions. Meanwhile, beneath the royal city, Songzhan Ganbu found himself in a spacious tunnel. The soldiers continuously reported the situation on the ground. The area remained heavily guarded. Cheng Chimo had departed, reportedly to inspect the entire western region. Slaves across various locales were rising in rebellion against their masters. Cheng Chimo was a man of his word. The Tubo had produced 13 more princes, with an additional 17 noble families anticipated to emerge. These families were merely nominal, lacking the stature of the 5 surnames and 7 prominent clans. Yet, that sufficed. The Tang dynasty acknowledged them as noble families, and henceforth, they would indeed be recognized as such. Your Majesty, this letter is from the kingdom of Naboluo. A soldier handed a letter to Songzhan Ganbu and retreated to a corner, lost in thought. Prolonged confinement underground could drive a man to madness. Songzhan Ganbu sighed inwardly, having intended to use this method to stall Cheng Chimo. However, the hearts of men were not united, and few were willing to cooperate. If every city acted thus, Cheng Chimo would never reach the royal city. It was futile. The benefits offered by Cheng Chimo were too tempting for anyone to refuse. The local lords, grateful and indebted, would be foolish not to surrender, given the multitude of rewards they received. What advantage was there in serving Songzhan Ganbu? Merely maintaining the status quo. Such was the nature of war. Military might was but one facet. The heart and mind were paramount. Throughout history, this has held true. The Qing dynasty could not have entered the pass without Wu Sangui. The primary reason for dynastic change was not military ineptitude, but rather the incompetence of the court. A group of fools governing a populace of the wise leads to predictable consequences. Ironically, the fools believed themselves clever, adhering to a singular method, that of silencing dissent. unaware of their own folly. It was laughable that they could perpetrate such absurdities as calling a deer a horse, and most tragic that it ended so hastily. In such times, should not an example be made? Songzan Ganbu wished to execute a warning, yet he found himself unable to do so. He had soldiers, but he could not eradicate all the slave owners. He aspired to reform and abolish slavery. Opposition arose not only domestically, but also from foreign realms. Neighboring nations did not desire a powerful Tubo, merely a sufficiently large one. Now, with Songzan Ganbu having taken full control of the nation, he was poised to fulfill his ambitions. The rebels were ready to surrender, yet unexpectedly, Cheng Chumo sent troops into Tubo. Songzan Ganbu, brimming with aspirations, found himself thwarted. He opened the letter and, upon reading, slumped wearily onto a stool. The king of Naboluo did not conceal the fact that Naboluo had already fallen to the Tang. He informed Songzan Ganbu that Princess Chizuan had gone to Gansu to seek assistance on his behalf, hoping that this person could save him. Surrender. And I shall follow you in surrendering. The Tang is vast. They will not mind an additional prince. I know of your ambitions, with the support of the Tang Emperor. What do you have to fear in realizing them? This was the final message from the king of Naboluo. Songzan Ganbu gazed at the soldier lost in thought in the corner. Ha ha ha. Cheng Chumo, you are truly ruthless. I yield to you. He commanded. Issue my military orders. All troops are to lay down their arms and surrender. That day, Tubo soldiers gradually emerged from the tunnels, some overwhelmed with emotion, weeping profusely, while others dared not open their eyes. They were received by Fu Jiang and Chibi Helu, while the rest scattered to follow Cheng Chumo in taking over various cities. As Songzan Ganbu exited the tunnel, he encountered Fu Jiang and Chibi Helu. I have met the Grand Commander of the Western Frontier. I am Fu Jiang. I have met the Grand Commander of the Western Frontier. I am Chibi Helu. The two bowed. Songzan Ganbu was taken aback. Was this the treatment afforded to prisoners? His Majesty said that from the moment you surrendered, you have been his little brother, the king of the Western Frontier. Fu Jiang replied with a smile. Songzan Ganbu looked skyward. Does he not fear my rebellion? He inquired. His Majesty said he would welcome such an opportunity. At most, he would strike you once more. Fu Jiang replied. Chapter 330. Songzan Ganbu's surrender. Songzan Ganbu laughed heartily, only to have tears follow. There is a form of submission that is both heartfelt and spoken. Did he have any opportunity for rebellion? Here were over a dozen noble families. What right did he have to revolt? Simply because he was a prince? Was he the Grand Commander of Liaodong? Following the current trend, the Tang's non-surnamed princes numbered at least 80. Where is His Majesty? After a long pause, Songzan Ganbu asked. In Ryu City, Fu Jiang replied. Songzan Ganbu rode alone toward Ryu City. Fu Jiang and Chibi Helu whispered to one another. Songzan Ganbu has had a difficult journey. Princess Chizuan is quite remarkable to have left him a path as a prince, Fu Jiang remarked. Chibi Helu shook his head. You are mistaken. She had no such capability. The true benefactor is Princess Wenxing. Do you know why His Majesty would acquiesce to Princess Wenxing? Chibi Helu stated. Fu Jiang's eyes sparkled, fixated on Chibi Helu. Chibi Helu wore a smug expression. Because Princess Wenxing has rendered service to the Tang. Without her, there would be no legitimacy today. His Majesty would certainly show her respect. Fu Jiang finally understood, so it is. Ryu City. As Songzan Ganbu entered the city, Princess Chizuan awaited his arrival. Greetings, King of the Western Frontier, she said, standing gracefully before his horse. Songzan Ganbu dismounted and embraced Princess Chizuan. I apologize for your distress, he said. Thanks to Princess Chizuan, I owe you this, Songzan Ganbu thought. Do not presume it was I who assisted you. I lack such power. It was your other wife who aided you, Princess Chizuan replied, unwilling to claim that credit. The ministers, in gratitude to Princess Wenxing, had no words to counter. None dared oppose, for Cheng Chumo had taken advantage of the situation. Songzan Ganbu was momentarily stunned, his expression growing complex. He had but two wives, Princess Wenxing and Princess Chizuan. He had never intended to acknowledge Princess Wenxing, viewing her as of little use. Yet, unexpectedly, when his life hung in the balance, it was Princess Wenxing who spoke on his behalf, enabling his survival. He forced a wry smile. I have wronged Wenxing, Songzan Ganbu admitted. Princess Chizuan withdrew from Songzan Ganbu's embrace, observing his haggard face with concern. Princess Wenxing has just lost her father. Now is the time we must support her. Shall we visit her residence? Princess Chizuan suggested. At this moment, Princess Wenxing displayed remarkable understanding. She was headstrong, yet not foolish. The difference between a Tang princess and a Naboluo princess was significant, and some matters could not be contested. Songzan Ganbu nodded in agreement. The two proceeded to Princess Wenxing's abode. Upon seeing Songzan Ganbu and Princess Chizuan, Princess Wenxing's face lit up with joy. Rising, she hurried to the door, lifting her skirts. It is wonderful to see you both safe, she exclaimed with a smile. Songzan Ganbu felt a twinge of embarrassment. Princess Wenxing had spent many years in Tubo, only having met him during their wedding. Otherwise, she had been mostly neglected, which explained her residence in Ryu City. Princess Chizuan stepped forward and embraced Princess Wenxing's arm. Sister, she said. Princess Wenxing glanced at Princess Chizuan, feeling a surge of joy within her heart. Once, she had been compelled to address her as sister. Yet now she openly acknowledged her role as a younger sibling. It was a promising beginning. Where there are women, there are bound to be intrigues. The intellectual clashes between women can reach astonishing heights. Princess Wenqing gently patted Princess Qizuan's hand, remarking that they were sisters and could address each other however they pleased. Princess Qizuan sighed inwardly, recognizing the cleverness of the situation. Accepting the title of sister left her with no grounds for complaint, and King Songzan would not perceive Princess Wenqing as envious. My husband has yet to eat. I shall prepare a meal for you, Princess Wenqing declared. King Songzan nodded, though still feeling somewhat awkward. It must be said that Princess Wenqing was quite the cook, preparing a dish of fish and another of braised pork. The three gathered around the dining table, with Princess Wenqing continuously serving dishes to the two others, gradually improving the atmosphere. Is there any wine? King Songzan inquired. Indeed, Princess Wenqing replied, rising to fetch it. She soon returned, struggling to carry a jar of wine. King Songzan stood to assist her, and once seated again, he poured wine for both ladies. After a few cups, King Songzan remarked, "You have endured much over the years." Princess Wenqing wept, asserting that to claim she had not would be disingenuous. Princess Qizuan hurried to comfort her, saying, "Sister, do not cry. Our days ahead will be filled with happiness. We shall reside here for a lifetime," Princess Qizuan added, with tear-filled eyes. Princess Wenqing lifted her gaze to King Songzan and then to Princess Qizuan. There were matters she felt compelled to address. Being a royal in the Tang dynasty was no trifling matter. "Sister, heed my words. The officials of the Tang must not be underestimated. We must ensure no weaknesses are exposed," Princess Wenqing cautioned. King Songzan and Princess Qizuan listened intently, for these were matters they truly did not comprehend. A sense of pride swelled within Princess Wenqing. The king of Xijiang could not remain in his territory. The Grand Commander of Xijiang must not establish personal power there. Princess Wenqing continued, "The appointment of Cheng Chumo is merely a title. Certain matters require military oversight. The Grand Commander is but a name. The true management of Xijiang cannot rest upon him. Tomorrow, I shall seek an audience with His Majesty about this matter. I have long desired to explore the lands of the Tang," King Songzan declared. Princess Wenqing's expression brightened. He was indeed heeding her counsel. The following day, King Songzan sought out Cheng Chumo, who was currently instructing Zizi in martial arts. Zizi, unable to remain in Fufeng County, insisted on finding Cheng Chumo, and the women, with no choice, had to let her go. After all, with the shadow guards present, no one could dare to harm her. "Brother-in-law, I shall not study any longer." "What is this? You are not merely challenging me. You are seeking entertainment at my expense," Zizi exclaimed. Cheng Chumo was at a loss for words. How could this girl be so astute? Zizi's physique was a missed opportunity for amusement. Though she feigned displeasure, she felt exhilarated within, secretly proud of her allure. King Songzan requested an audience, and Cheng Chumo permitted him entry. As King Songzan entered, he was struck by the beauty of the estate, feeling speechless. How had he been unaware of such a splendid place in Tubo? "I pay my respects to your majesty," King Songzan bowed. "No need for excessive formalities. I hear you are somewhat unconvinced." Cheng Chumo smiled. Zizi brought a teacup to Cheng Chumo's lips, and he inclined his head slightly to sip. King Songzan's mouth twitched. Truly, the sister-in-law's antics were brazen. "How can you be so indiscreet?" he remarked, albeit insincerely. He still believed he was down on his luck. Given a few more years, Cheng Chumo would surely be unable to surpass him. Cheng Chumo perceived his thoughts with clarity. "Ha, I do enjoy your defiance. I intend to survey the realm, and will take you along to witness the true nature of the Tang, so you may understand where you falter." Cheng Chumo laughed heartily. Zizi beamed, proclaiming, "Brother-in-law is the most formidable. I shall accompany you. You promised me," she insisted. Cheng Chumo nodded. In the chapter titled Leisure and Relaxation, the pacification of Tubo brought an end to warfare in the west of the Tang. The territorial expanse increased, significantly enhancing the nation's strength. 2 carriages traversed the grasslands. On the surface, there were only 5 individuals, with special forces following discreetly behind. Cheng Chumo, enjoying rare leisure, found himself devoid of obligations. King Songzan sat in the carriage. His face darkened, silent. "Cheng Chumo, you deceitful charlatan, you are merely toying with me. You said you would show me why I cannot surpass the Tang. Yet here I am in the vast grasslands. What are the 4 great greens? The green meadows, the watermelon rinds, Songzan's head, the postal bureau? What is this postal bureau nonsense?" King Songzan fumed. Princess Wenqing remained silent. This matter did not concern her. Princess Qizuan's face flushed as she hid behind Princess Wenqing, not wanting King Songzan to see her. Rumors swirled about her and Cheng Chumo. The citizens of Ryu City claimed she had gone to great lengths to save King Songzan, which was an explanation that could not be easily clarified. Moreover, it was said she frequently visited Gansu, often staying for extended periods. Gansu was well known as Cheng Chumo's private retreat. The 4 great smoothnesses, the face of a young lady, delicate porcelain bowls, lacquered tables, glass panels. Voices emanated from the carriage ahead. King Songzan's expression darkened further. Indeed, Cheng Chumo was shameless. "Brother-in-law, I must disagree. I believe you are mistaken. Clearly, one's backside is smoother than one's face," Zizi interjected. "Do not speak. I have not touched your backside. How could I know if it is smoother than your face?" Cheng Chumo retorted. Zizi pouted, turning her head away in displeasure, insisting it was indeed her backside that was smoother. How can one not contradict an emperor? She thought. Very well, let us say the backside is indeed smoother. Ching Chumo sighed, feeling quite helpless. Zizi's displeasure dictated this playful banter. Her wrath was not to be trifled with. If one did not acquiesce to her whims, she would undoubtedly seek revenge, and the consequences would be dire. The most vexing part was her fearlessness towards him. For every retort he offered, she had 10 ready in response, and if the conversation turned sour, she might even bite Ching Chumo's face. Finally, Zizi's spirits brightened. You there, the horse handler. Could you not proceed at a more leisurely pace? Why rush when we are merely out for a stroll? Zizi called out. The horse handler, Li Xiang, kept his head down, silent. He knew better than to provoke her. He opted for the wisdom of silence. Receiving no response, Zizi leaned against Ching Chumo. Brother-in-law, on this long journey, do you harbor any inappropriate thoughts about me? She teased. Ching Chumo's face darkened. He had entertained some notions, but Zizi's words extinguished any flicker of hope. He closed his eyes, resigned to whatever might unfold. Brother-in-law, do you wish to compare which of us is smoother? Zizi continued, playfully tugging at Ching Chumo's ear. He sighed inwardly, questioning why he had brought her along. He mused how much better it would have been to have taken Li Lixian instead. Upon arriving in Xiazhou, the carriage entered the city. At last, a serene silence enveloped Ching Chumo's ears as Zizi took Princess Qizuan to play, leaving him to walk alongside King Songzan through the bustling streets. Why has this king turned green? Songzan Ganbu inquired. Ching Chumo, oblivious to the reasons behind it, merely spoke carelessly. I do not wish to answer you. Ponder it yourself. He replied. The more Cheng remained silent, the more curious Songzan became. He leaned closer to Cheng. Are you bullying Wencheng? Songzan questioned. Cheng cast a sidelong glance at him. Do you think I lack women? With a mere word from me, the harem could be filled with 3,000 beauties, he retorted. Songzan dared not respond. Observing Cheng's profile as they walked, hoping to glean the truth from his expression, yet was met with disappointment as Cheng remained unresponsive. Are you perhaps bullying Qizuan? It must be so. You took advantage of my absence to act against him, didn't you? For a king to behave in such a manner, how laughable, Songzan scoffed. Cheng chose to ignore him, further solidifying Songzan's suspicions. No wonder Qizuan could not meet his gaze. It all made sense now. Cheng found amusement in the situation. Thinking to himself, let us see how you handle this. This matter would undoubtedly occupy Songzan's thoughts for a lifetime. Zizi returned, exclaiming, brother-in-law. You must see the beautiful fabrics over there. She tugged at Cheng's hand, leading him toward the stall. Cheng followed with a smile. Arriving at the stand where Qizuan was intently examining the textiles, and Songzan did likewise. After a prolonged gaze at the fabrics, Songzan inquired, how much for this? 1 won per foot, the vendor replied. Songzan was taken aback, his heart sinking as he smiled bitterly. 1 won per foot? In Tubo. This fabric would cost at least 20 wons per foot. What a disparity. Do you have a lot? He asked. The vendor, secretly pleased, noted Songzan's opulent attire, revealing his lack of knowledge. My workshop produces 100 rolls of silk daily, he boasted. Songzan felt dizzy at the thought of 100 rolls. Qizuan's small face was twisted in confusion. This gap was astounding. A mere stall possessed such a workshop? In the western regions, this would undoubtedly mean a significant player. She turned to Songzan. Let us explore elsewhere. He nodded, purchasing some fabrics before departing, with Li Xiang handling the payment. After a day of exploration, Songzan was lost in thought, glancing at Cheng. Is this truly the grandeur of the Tang dynasty? He said, his voice tinged with bitterness. What is this? You should visit Fufeng County. That is the commercial hub, while Shizhou has only a few establishments. Zizi chimed in, for she was well aware of the situation. Frequently visiting Fufeng County. Before meeting Cheng, her purchases were meticulously recorded, as Li Tai had gone mad, spending money like water. After meeting Cheng, Zizi realized the concept of zero-cost shopping. The entire Fufeng County belonged to Cheng. He could buy whatever he wished. If short on funds, he would seek out Sister Kong, who could provide whatever was needed. As night fell, everyone retired to their respective carriages for rest. Zizi and Qizuan preferred not to stay at the government office. The inside of the carriage was far superior to the outside, equipped with everything they needed. Zizi forbade Cheng from going to the government office as well. The night was quiet. Zizi, clad in a silk skirt, caught Cheng's eye several times, feeling quite pleased. Your Majesty, do you find my legs fair? She teased, playfully pressing them against Cheng's stomach, giggling. Cheng, speechless, closed his eyes, feigning sleep. As autumn approached, the weather turned chilly. Cheng pulled the blanket over himself, growing warmer as he slumbered. In the middle of the night, he opened his eyes to find Zizi nestled beside him. At dawn, Zizi refused to rise, hiding beneath the covers in a huff. You deceived me. You said it wouldn't hurt. She pouted angrily. Cheng escaped the carriage, feeling sore and weary. He was bemused. If this was how it felt to be in pain, he wondered how unbearable it would be if it were worse. A soldier approached him. Your Majesty, Li Chengxian has failed, and the fire worshippers have grown stronger, with their followers now numbering over 100,000. Cheng's expression darkened, taken aback by the news. The fire worshippers can also be called the Ming sect. Return to the capital, he ordered. With Li Chengxian's defeat, was the fire worshippers so formidable? Songzan wished to see Chang'an as well, opting not to travel by carriage but by boat instead. A month later, they returned to Chang'an. During the morning court, the ministers bowed their heads, hesitant to speak. Cheng stood with his back to them before the dragon throne. You cannot even handle a mere fire worshipper? What are you all doing? He bellowed in anger. Li Chengxian lowered his head in shame. Cheng turned to Ma Zhou. Do you not possess the talent for governance? He inquired coldly. Ma Zhou trembled, on the verge of tears, fearing Cheng would vent his frustrations upon him. Your Majesty, this matter is indeed difficult to manage. You have decreed that all children belong to the court, which is responsible for their care. The fire worshippers are indoctrinating these children, and we cannot take severe measures. Ma Zhou explained. Cheng's heart stirred. So that was the situation. A year had passed. Are you prepared for the trains and planes? Tomorrow, I will inspect them. If you fail, you will face dire consequences. The ministers raised their heads, knowing that they could handle this matter exceptionally well, especially with Wu Zetian's support. They would accomplish the task smoothly. Observing their expressions, Cheng sighed inwardly, having initially intended to punish them severely. The ministers regarded Cheng with eyes full of resentment, thinking him shameless for his expectations. Had they not been clever in completing their tasks, they would have faced his wrath. The next task, flourish on the roads. If you cannot complete it in 6 months, do not blame me for being ruthless, Cheng said with a cold smile. The ministers stood obediently, secretly thinking that trouble was brewing again. One civil minister could no longer contain himself and stepped forward. Your Majesty, please reconsider. We deal with state affairs daily and simply do not have time to waste on such trivial matters, he argued. Other ministers edged away from him, fearing for his fate. Cheng fixed his gaze upon him. You dare to say that trains are useless? Very well, you shall be responsible for the tracks. I grant you 6 months. If you do not meet the requirements, prepare to clean every latrine in Chang'an, Cheng declared. The ministers looked at the bold one with sympathy, thinking him reckless to speak out against the emperor. Cheng continued, moreover, what I have tasked you with is of great significance. Once trains are operational, the entire Tang will be interconnected, erasing the notion of distance between the emperor and his subjects. This is a boon. The minister attempted to protest further when several soldiers burst in, seizing him and pinning him to the ground. After 10 strikes, the minister was left speechless. What were you about to say? Cheng asked, watching him. The minister shook his head vigorously, swearing internally that he had spoken out of turn. Everyone, please proceed with your duties. I have faith in you all, Cheng Chumo remarked. The ministers bowed and watched him depart, each letting out a sigh. Do not take advantage of the situation. The utility of the train is self-evident. Your business will undoubtedly flourish, Ma Zhou said with disdain. The ministers, no longer pretending, burst into laughter. Ma Zhou was right. They stood to gain the most. Songzan looked on, puzzled by the unfolding events. The former Tubo rebel approached him. We are allies. Without coming to the Tang, you would never grasp the true essence of wealth. Look at those ministers. Each one is worth millions, some even billions. Do you have any idea how much is in the national treasury? Over 9 trillion. The rebel whispered. Songzan was taken aback. 9 trillion? What does that even mean? The Tubo have accumulated only millions over generations, and yet the Tang treasury boasts 9 trillion? Are the ministers really that wealthy? Does His Majesty turn a blind eye to their corruption? Songzan questioned, unable to believe that such wealth could be amassed through legitimate means. The rebel scoffed. Do you know how much that minister, recently defeated, possesses? 300 million. He hails from the Chui family, tasked by His Majesty to oversee road construction. He failed miserably. That paltry sum is hardly sufficient. Be wary. He may come to you for a loan. He did not elaborate on why the ministers were so affluent. Money in the court is merely a number. The ministers are not any richer because it serves no purpose, Cheng Chumo stated. He asserted that if one claimed it was not theirs, they should obediently surrender, without resistance. To safeguard wealth, one must exchange technological contributions, such as trains. Once developed, all ministers would prosper. This was merely the beginning. Once the train was operational, they would each receive 30% of the profits, leaving 70% for the court. As long as they participated in the research, generations could not exhaust that wealth. This was the reason ministers did not oppose road construction. At this juncture, repairing roads was not about profit, but rather leveraging the convenience of roads to earn more. Officials who profited from road construction would face severe backlash, even impeachment. Last year, a minister spent a year and a half on road construction, resulting in a collective impeachment by the ministers due to the significant loss of income for others. That minister met a tragic end, with his entire family exiled and his property confiscated. Since then, no one dared to profit from road construction. It was a perilous endeavor. There was a tradition that newly appointed officials must first repair roads. One need not ask, simply observe where the roads were being constructed, and it was certain that a change in officials was imminent. Regardless of the road's condition, it was mandatory to excavate and reconstruct. It was euphemistically referred to as maintaining the dignity of the locality, ensuring smoothness. Regardless, the roads would deteriorate within 3 years. An additional year would signify a minister's benevolence. Songzan turned to leave. He wished to partake in the research. Meanwhile, Cheng Chumo returned to the Ganlu Hall, where CZ and Wu Zetian were engaged in hushed conversation. Upon Cheng Chumo's entrance, the two stood and greeted him with respect. Outside, CZ was unruly, but within the palace, he adhered to decorum. Cheng Chumo took his seat. Oh, how troublesome is this Ming Jiao, he sighed. CZ rose to pour tea for Cheng Chumo, while Wu Zetian approached from behind to massage his shoulders. To catch a mouse, one should not employ a tiger. It would be futile. Why not use a cat, Your Majesty? Wu Zetian suggested. Cheng Chumo, intrigued, grasped her hand gently. An excellent notion. To catch a mouse, one must use a cat. Employing a tiger is akin to wasting energy. Summon my senior brother. Cheng Chimo commanded. Soon, the abbot of Dan Temple arrived at the Ganlu Hall, bowing in respect upon seeing Cheng Chimo. Please, take a seat. Before the abbot could speak, Cheng Chimo interjected. Wu Zetian served tea to the abbot, who felt a sense of pride. Such treatment was reserved for him alone. Your Majesty summoned me. What is the matter? The abbot inquired. The Zoroastrians, Cheng Chimo replied. The abbot appeared unconcerned. The Zoroastrians? They dare enter my sight? What is your intent? To extinguish them or suppress them? Just say the word. The abbot had this confidence. Cheng Chimo might not be able to deal with the Zoroastrians directly, but the Buddhist sect could handle them effortlessly. What is a congregation of 100,000? Ha! With your assurance, I am at ease. Let us extinguish them. Cheng Chimo stated. The abbot acknowledged and prepared to dispatch someone to deal with the Zoroastrians. Back at the temple, a host was organizing scriptures. You are tasked with a mission, quell the Zoroastrians, the abbot commanded. This was merely an ordinary host, lacking any significant authority within Dan Temple. Once outside, he would become a revered monk. The host clasped his hands in reverence. Rest assured, it will be resolved within a month, he vowed. The abbot nodded in satisfaction. Capturing a mouse was simple. In the face of such a colossal entity as the Buddhist sect, the Zoroastrians were but mice, easily dealt with by a mere cat. Chapter 333. The scapegoat Yuan Tiangang. After entrusting the matter to the Buddhist sect, Cheng Chimo commenced the next phase of his plan. In the palace's rear garden, Cheng Chimo ambled with his hands clasped behind his back, followed closely by Yuan Tiangang, who wore a grim expression. You have trained the little Wu well. He excels in every regard, Cheng Chimo remarked as a few large black dogs approached. He crouched down to pet each of them, their tails wagging enthusiastically. Do not push your luck, Yuan Tiangang retorted angrily. Cheng Chimo, this scoundrel, not only took Wu Zetian but also expected the Taoists to contribute to gunpowder research. Gunpowder needed improvement, yet Cheng Chimo lacked the expertise and wanted Yuan Tiangang to handle it. Is that even humanly possible? It is exceedingly dangerous. I am not concerned. The Buddhist sect is currently addressing the Zoroastrians. They contribute significantly to the state each year. Your sect must also make a contribution. If you are unwilling, I shall assign you menial tasks, such as sweeping the palace. The Tang does not harbor idlers, Cheng Chimo stated, rising to face Yuan Tiangang. Yuan Tiangang finally comprehended the meaning of scoundrel, and it was Cheng Chimo. He was so enraged he could scarcely speak. Cheng Chimo merely stared at him for a prolonged moment. Eventually, Yuan Tiangang sighed, defeated. He possessed means to confront Cheng Chimo, yet they were impractical. Cheng Chimo's master was no pushover. If that old man played his cards right, the entire Taoist sect would crumble. This was not mere rumor. Long Gui possessed such capability. We, the Taoists, are willing to research gunpowder, Yuan Tiangang said, his voice bitter. Cheng Chimo patted Yuan Tiangang on the shoulder, who felt a deep-seated irritation. He lamented internally why his disciple could not match Cheng Chimo. Turning to depart, he arrived at the Ganlu Hall to see Wu Zetian. Wu Zetian rose and bowed. Master, you have arrived. Why does your expression seem so grim? She asked. Upon encountering his disciple Yuan Tiangang, his mood lifted considerably. Yet he gazed at his pupil with a sense of helplessness. A myriad of emotions swirled within him, particularly frustration, immense frustration. He retrieved a small vial from his robes. Wu Zetian took a step back, her voice grave as she cautioned, Master, please do not act rashly. The emperor is not someone the Taoist sect can afford to offend. The current circumstances were precisely what Wu Zetian desired. Without Cheng Chimo, she would still be in the palace tending to children. Now, with Cheng Chimo relinquishing power, Wu Zetian was responsible for all affairs, effectively making her the true sovereign. Yuan Tiangang offered a bitter smile, recognizing from Wu Zetian's reaction just how much Cheng Chimo was beloved. This is a Taoist elixir. It will enhance a man's vitality. You should give it a try. It would be best if you could bear a child. He insisted, feeling powerless against Cheng Chimo. He believed the only avenue left was to ensure Wu Zetian produced an heir, preferably a son. If he could not contend with Cheng Chimo, he would target his offspring. Should all else fail, it would come down to endurance. He did not believe Cheng Chimo could outlast him. Wu Zetian's cheeks flushed as she accepted the vial, her gaze uncertain as it met Yuan Tiangang's. He nearly lost his temper at her incredulity. If you wish to take it, then so be it, he exclaimed angrily, turning on his heel to leave. Wu Zetian made a face at his retreating figure, her expression joyful as she played with the vial. Humph, hand it over. Let us share it. Zizi emerged from the shadows, her eyes fixed intently on the porcelain bottle in Wu Zetian's hand. Wu Zetian simply tossed the vial to Zizi, who beamed with delight. Aren't you afraid to let Her Majesty consume it? You might regret it, Wu Zetian remarked. Zizi shrugged, nonchalant. If I cannot, then there is always Wu Zetian. Let us seek the emperor, Zizi suggested. The two women exchanged knowing glances, a silent agreement passing between them. In the rear garden, Cheng Chimo was reading a letter sent by his senior brother. Within a week, the Buddhist sect had utterly dismantled the worship of fire. Through interrogation, it was revealed that Li Ji was in the Arab Empire, held in high esteem by its ruler, and had become a prince overseeing technology. As the two women approached, Cheng Chimo shared the letter with Wu Zetian, while Zizi settled beside him. Your Majesty, would you like to give it a try? Zizi inquired. Cheng Chumo examined the pill. Curious. What is this? He asked. Zizi's cheeks reddened as she fumbled for words. Just take it. I will wash up and await you, she said before hastily retreating. Her face ablaze. Cheng Chumo surmised the nature of the pill, feeling speechless. How had Zizi transformed from the obedient child she once was into someone so difficult to comprehend? It felt as though she were an endless abyss. What does your Majesty intend to do? Wu Zetian asked. Cheng Chumo smiled lightly. If the Arab Empire seeks to stir trouble, I shall indulge them. They are counting on Li Ji for technological advances, and I shall provide him with that opportunity. Wu Zetian smiled knowingly. The distance is vast. It would be ideal to have a relay station. Cheng Chumo pondered for a moment. There is indeed a suitable place. How about the Great Stone Kingdom? He proposed. The Great Stone Kingdom has consistently supplied black oil to the Tang dynasty over the years. If we can gain complete control over it, we will seize the initiative. Wu Zetian agreed. You are correct. The Great Stone Kingdom is a critical battleground. Your Majesty, do not forget about the Mud Kingdom. Both nations border the Arab Empire. Princess Chizuan was summoned to the palace. Before long, she timidly entered, fearfully standing aside. Unable to meet Cheng Chumo's gaze, she thought to herself how formidable Cheng Chumo seemed at this moment, his presence imposing without a hint of anger. This aura was almost unbearable for Princess Chizuan. Please, have a seat. Do not be formal, Cheng Chumo said. She complied, sitting at a distance, still hesitant to look up. Cheng Chumo shook his head, reminiscing fondly about the spirited demeanor of Princess Chizuan. I prefer you as your unruly self. Please, regain that spirit, he encouraged. Princess Chizuan lifted her gaze to Cheng Chumo, her eyes filled with grievance. Having witnessed the might of the Tang dynasty, she felt unworthy to bicker with him. Upon arriving in Chang'an, she found the impoverished state of her people starkly contrasted with the wealth of merchants. As a Mud Kingdom princess, she had little to boast about. The most precious handkerchief she possessed was commonplace in the Tang. Please, do not bully me any further, my husband doubts me. And you have summoned me here alone. What do you intend? Princess Chizuan lamented, unable to suppress her tears. Cheng Chumo was at a loss for words. Why weep? I offer you benefits. The Mud Kingdom will submit to the Tang dynasty, granting your father a princely title, along with 1,000,000 coins. Instantly, Princess Chizuan ceased her tears. For her father was anxious in Chang'an, uncertain of Cheng Chumo's intentions. Very well, the Mud Kingdom is willing to submit. What is 1,000,000 coins to you? She challenged. Locking eyes with Cheng Chumo. This money cannot be taken lightly. Forget it, he replied. No, I insist, she interjected, fearing he would change his mind. Cheng Chumo burst into laughter. Go and make arrangements. If you need anything, just come to me. Princess Chizuan nodded gently, sneaking a glance at Cheng Chumo before lowering her head, as though she were a thief. After expressing her gratitude, she hurried away, lifting her skirt. Sudi Fong entered the garden. Greetings, Your Majesty, he said respectfully. Cheng Chumo regarded the veteran general. Can you still fight? He inquired. I can, Sudi Fong replied succinctly. Bring a disciple with you, Cheng Chumo suggested. A disciple? Who should I take? Sudi Fong asked, puzzled. How about Fong Yai? That lad has potential, Cheng Chumo replied. Sudi Fong considered and nodded. I shall obey your command. Cheng Chumo then informed him of the situation regarding the Great Stone Kingdom. And Sudi Fong understood that he was to oversee it. I will not fail in my duty, Sudi Fong assured. Cheng Chumo shook his head. To fully control the Great Stone Kingdom and face the Arab Empire, you must take Su Jingzong with you. I require all intelligence on the Arab Empire. Sudi Fong readily agreed. Understood. Cheng Chumo then called upon Shui Ringgui. Li Ji will handle matters in Liaodong. You are responsible for the western frontier, Cheng Chumo instructed. Shui Ringgui felt a surge of excitement. His days of fortune were beginning. What of Wang Xuanzi? He asked. He will go to the Mud Kingdom. He is familiar with that region, Cheng Chumo responded. Shui Ringgui hesitated, wanting to inquire about the deployment of renowned generals outside the homeland, but he refrained. Cheng Chumo chuckled, sensing Shui Ringgui's thoughts. The downfall of the Tang dynasty stemmed from its generals being abroad, leaving the homeland vulnerable to ambitious individuals. As long as I am alive, chaos shall not arise within the realm. You may proceed with your endeavors outside without concern. The expeditionary policy remains unchanged. The territories we conquer will be purchased with coin. Your son is no longer a child. It would be splendid for him to become a prince in the future, Cheng Chumo remarked. Shui Ringgui rose and bowed in acknowledgement. Cheng Chumo responded with a smile and a nod. After Shui Ringgui departed, Cheng Chumo chuckled. Heh, Shui Ringgui, should your son shoot you, it bears no relation to me. I did not teach him that. His laughter echoed through the hall. Wu Zetian, who had just arrived, found herself speechless. How could His Majesty laugh so mischievously? This was due to Shui Ringgui holding a grudge over an arrow shot at Empress Changsan. Someone, go to Gansu and inform the divine physician to prepare some life-saving medicine for General Shui. We must not allow him to be truly shot dead, Wu Zetian commanded. Cheng Chumo did not intervene. He had never intended for Shui Ringgui to meet such a fate. Wu Zetian approached Cheng Chumo and took a seat beside him, placing the memorials on the table. These are the appointments of the ministers. Your Majesty, please review them, she said. Cheng Chumo did not glance at the documents, but turned his attention to Wu Zetian. You shall make the decision, he replied. Wu Zetian felt a surge of delight in her heart. She relished the trust bestowed upon her. Are you not afraid of my usurpation? She inquired. Qing Chumo smiled lightly. Wu Zetian sighed. Who could possibly challenge Qing Chumo? Who would dare engage him in battle? Should a rebellion arise, there would be no need for Qing Chumo's intervention. Any renowned general could easily quell it. As long as Qing Chumo maintained control over the military, he had no cause for concern. Qing Chumo stood. I shall take a stroll. Will you accompany me? He asked. Wu Zetian glanced at the memorials, hesitated, then rose. I shall go, she replied, resigning herself to the prospect of working late into the night. The two departed the palace and walked through the streets. Chang'an was devoid of any small vendors. Circumstances dictated such measures. The rows of carriages left no space for merchants. The once 150-meter road had expanded to 200 meters, yet it still appeared congested. On either side of the street were shops, each closely adjacent to the other. They arrived at a 7-story tavern and ascended to the top floor. The patrons inside were sparse, and all were in private rooms. Qing Chumo spotted a familiar face, Songzan, accompanied by Cui Wenqing, the most experienced individual in the Tang dynasty and now the head of the Cui family. Upon seeing Qing Chumo, Cui Wenqing hurried over and bowed. Outside. You may call me Brother Cheng, Qing Chumo said. Cui Wenqing felt a surge of joy. Their camaraderie remained intact. The four entered a private room. Greetings, Your Majesty, greetings. Empress Wu, Songzan, and Cui Wenqing bowed. No need for formalities. What brings you here? I have been rather idle lately and wish to participate, Qing Chumo inquired. The two exchanged glances and relayed the news to Qing Chumo. The Arab Empire had opened its trade to the nation, encouraging Tang merchants to venture forth with exceedingly favorable conditions and low taxes. They expressed their intent to explore this opportunity. Qing Chumo frowned upon hearing this. The Arab Empire was quite formidable. With their technological shortcomings, they sought to siphon knowledge from the Tang. This was undoubtedly a clever strategy. In a few years, the Arab Empire would assimilate the technological advancements of the Tang dynasty. The Tang could not prohibit this. It would be foolish to forego wealth. Much like modern times. After the reforms and opening, foreign enterprises enjoyed benefits, often tax exemptions. A decade later, these enterprises discovered they had become joint ventures. Another decade passed, and they found their technological advantages diminished. 20 years hence, they realized their technology was no longer theirs, and the privileges they once enjoyed had been rescinded. This was the essence of leveraging one's assets. Qing Chumo could not allow the Arab Empire to proceed unchecked. The Arab Empire was far too powerful, a realm that Tibet could not contend with. Historically, the Arab Empire had clashed with the Tang dynasty. It was said that Sheng Yaojin led the charge but ultimately faced defeat, halting the Tang's expeditionary efforts. 20,000 troops, lacking logistics, fought valiantly against 200,000 from the Arab Empire. Why were there no supplies? Because certain individuals wished to see Sheng Yaojin falter. This conflict tarnished Sheng Yaojin's reputation significantly, a result the court had anticipated. They cared little for the Arab Empire, as the Tang's territory was already vast and challenging to govern. Tasking Sheng Yaojin with that battle was an attempt to keep him perpetually stationed at the frontier. He returned with merely 1,000 remnants of soldiers. Li Ji was nearly struck with terror, fearing that Sheng Yaojin might rebel and bring about his demise. To placate Sheng Yaojin, Li Ji granted him numerous benefits. I shall accompany you, Qing Chumo declared. The two hastily protested. They could not dare lead Qing Chumo into potential peril. Songzan, with a stern expression, said, Your Majesty, if you are particularly fond of Princess Chizuan, I shall send her to the palace for you. There is no need for such measures. Qing Chumo was at a loss for words. His intent was merely to observe the Arab Empire, not to pursue Princess Chizuan. How absurd. Does His Majesty lack women? Speak such nonsense again, and you shall face severe punishment. Wu Zetian admonished. Songzan understood Qing Chumo's character. Besides, given his status, would he tarnish his reputation for a mere woman? The palace had no shortage of women. Songzan quickly acknowledged his misstep. Humph. Wu Zetian huffed, and the matter was considered settled. Your Majesty, it is exceedingly perilous. What if you encounter Li Ji? Cui Wenqing cautioned. The subsequent words skirted taboo. Matters that once seemed simple became exceedingly complex after ascending to the throne. Qing Chumo remained resolute, indifferent to their concerns. Prepare as you see fit. My safety is assured by others, he stated firmly. After their meal, Qing Chumo and Wu Zetian visited the Grandin Temple. The abbot, partaking in wine, rose upon their arrival. Join me for a drink, brother, the abbot said with a bow. Qing Chumo laughed heartily as they sat down to indulge in the wine. After a few rounds, Qing Chumo remarked, It would be remiss not to extend the teachings of Buddhism to the Arab Empire. Why not consider Taoism? Because Taoism is ill-suited for persuasion. Such matters are better entrusted to Buddhism, Qing Chumo explained further. The abbot, after consideration, resolved to personally explore the matter. I shall accompany you, bringing along more martial monks. The abbot affirmed. Wu Zetian poured wine for the two, relief washing over her. With martial monks to protect His Majesty, there would be no issues. Chapter 335. Departure to the Arab Empire. Upon leaving the Grandin Temple and returning to the palace, Wu Zetian inquired with a smile. Whom do you intend to take with you? Some had approached her, requesting her assistance in securing a place in the expedition. Was it Zizi who sent you to inquire? Qing Chumo asked. Wu Zetian nodded. Cheng Chumo chuckled but did not acquiesce. The Arab Empire was not the Tang dynasty and posed significant dangers. He planned to bring along his concubine, Yin Zi, as well as 8 others, who, unlike special forces, would disguise themselves as merchants, rendering them unrecognizable. 3 days later, at the Hall of Governance, Zizi appeared displeased. Zizi, remain in the palace to provide cover for his majesty. This way, no one will suspect he has departed. Wu Zetian instructed. Zizi pouted, reluctantly acquiescing, her anger dissipating. Wu Zetian was correct. Cheng Chumo's movements must remain concealed from all. At this moment, Cheng Chumo had arrived in Fufeng County, where the 8 members of the Tianxia Society had disguised themselves as a merchant caravan, awaiting his arrival. Everything was kept simple, as Cheng Chumo instructed. However, they did not adhere to his directions. The Tianxia Society had already dispatched individuals ahead, numbering around 10,000, all masquerading as merchants. The Arab Empire, eager for the presence of Tang merchants, would certainly find this sizable contingent advantageous. This was merely the personnel arranged by the Tianxia Society. Cui Wencheng had also organized a considerable number of people, unwilling to risk any misfortune befalling Cheng Chumo. They did not travel alongside him. As Cui Wencheng set off with Song Zan, while Cheng Chumo ventured forth alone, the 9 riders departed, traversing through the Eastern Palace, with an ironworks situated a mere distance apart, facilitating swift railroad construction that alleviated transport times. Fortunately, the population of the Tang dynasty was only over 10 million, thus mitigating concerns about pollution, a blessing of its vast and sparsely populated land. A month later, they reached Gansu. The concubine had already received word. Donning her favorite red hanfu and clutching a bundle of clothes as she climbed onto the wagon, the caravan pressed onward. Upon leaving Gansu, Cheng Chumo no longer took the wagon, for he required no disguise in the open grasslands. The concubine and Cheng Chumo each rode a horse, leisurely traversing the plains. She needed no pretense. Her noble bearing was apparent, easily concealing her status. The 8 members of the Tianxia Society trailed behind Cheng Chumo, evoking a sense of the legendary white robes crossing the river, a reference from the Three Kingdoms era where merchants were symbolically represented by white garments. The principal offender, Lu Meng, had breached the unspoken rule of not obstructing merchants, who served the common people. His actions led to a significant decline in the status of merchants, with local authorities becoming increasingly hostile towards them, even scrutinizing their lineage. Merchants who committed crimes faced harsher penalties, enduring not only governmental punishment, but also public scorn. The populace regarded the merchant profession with disdain. In times of war, merchants no longer enjoyed privileges. Venturing into conflict zones was tantamount to courting death, all attributable to Lu Meng's actions. He had indeed seized Jingzhou, resulting in Guan Yu's demise and forcing Liu Bei to retreat, planting the seeds for the eventual downfall of Sun Quan's regime, a short-sighted and unscrupulous individual unworthy of being compared to Zhou Yu. Zhou Yu had recommended him for the position of Grand Commander precisely due to his poor character, as Zhou Yu was outmatched by Zhuge Liang and ultimately resorted to utilizing Lu Meng. At this juncture, Cheng Chumo remained unaware that the 8 members of the Tianxia Society had adopted the guise of white robes crossing the river. "My lord, I wish to eat lamb," the concubine said, her voice sweet and melodious. Her status was modest, and it was only in Cheng Chumo's presence that she recognized her role as a favored consort. Typically, in Gansu, she kept a low profile, eagerly taking on various tasks. The 2 steeds gradually drew closer, and Cheng Chumo lifted the concubine onto his horse, where she nestled directly into his embrace, a delightful sensation. "We shall dine later. Let us hasten our journey. Dining on lamb under the stars will create a splendid atmosphere," Cheng Chumo remarked. The concubine nodded eagerly in agreement. Night soon descended upon them. The wolf pack captured a wild sheep, preparing it over a fire for their evening meal. Under the campfire's glow, the concubine reveled in her meal. After dining, Cheng Chumo reclined on the grass, gazing at the stars, while the concubine rested her head on his arm. "My lord, there is something I must tell you, but you must not be angry," she said. "Speak freely." "I will not be angered," Cheng Chumo replied. The concubine then relayed the plans of the wolf pack to him. Cheng Chumo exhibited little reaction upon hearing this. "Loyalty is commendable. The Arab Empire is not Jingzhou. 10,000 cannot stir the waters," he stated. The concubine tilted her head slightly, sensing a change in Cheng Chumo. Once a man of fierce retribution against evil, he had now embraced various methods. One cannot punish the 8 members of the Tianxia Society for their protective actions. Cheng Chumo felt confident in their abilities and hoped they would be timely. With that thought, he closed his eyes. The concubine remained silent, lying quietly in his embrace. Aware of his concerns, if Li Ji were to share artillery technology with the Arabs, future conflicts would become exceedingly difficult. The initial steps are often the most challenging, and once the Arabs acquired cannon technology, they would surely pursue further advancements, potentially leading to a technological rivalry that Cheng Chumo wished to avoid. As Cheng Chumo meandered across the grasslands, he spotted a group of cavalry in the distance. He retrieved a mask, procured from Li Tai, which drastically altered his appearance once donned. The concubine required no disguise, as few recognized her. The 8 members of the Tianxia Society, too, typically concealed their faces while on duty. The approaching cavalry soon caught up with Cheng Chumo's caravan, led by Su Jingzong, the Tang dynasty's Minister of Foreign Affairs. Su greeted him with courtesy, clasping his fists. This brother is in a hurry. I find myself without water. May I borrow some? Su inquired. Ching Chumo stifled a laugh. For if one were unaware of Su's true nature, they might easily be deceived by his demeanor. Who would suspect him to be a man of intrigue? Certainly. But you must tell me why you are in such a haste, Ching Chumo replied. Su hesitated briefly. As a Minister of Foreign Affairs for the Tang, I am, of course, attending to matters of state. The remainder is confidential, and knowing too much may not be beneficial for you, he explained. Ching Chumo tossed the water pouch to Su, who expressed his gratitude with a bow. Passing the water to his subordinate, they took a sip. After a brief moment, Su finally drank. Ah, young brother, do not take offense. One must always be cautious. Thank you for your water. I must take my leave, Su said, and with that, he rode off to continue his journey. Ching Chumo nodded inwardly, acknowledging Su's penchant for gossip, yet he proved reliable in his duties. Upon receiving orders, he had arrived ahead of the army, truly a man of action. The caravan continued onward until they reached the border town of the Great Stone Kingdom, where Su had already entered ahead of them. The town's lord had not changed, and upon seeing Su, he hurriedly bowed in respect. Greetings to the envoy from the Celestial Empire, the lord said. Su maintained an aloof demeanor, hands behind his back, barely acknowledging the lord. Your Great Stone Kingdom has made notable progress these past few years, Su remarked coolly. The lord, sensing the need to assert his background, understood that this envoy was not to be trifled with. The current emperor is my uncle. The town owes its current standing to his support, the lord asserted. Su's expression shifted in surprise, and he immediately altered his tone. Ah, a compatriot. I, Su Jingzong, have come to your esteemed land. My presence may be an inconvenience, he said with a smile. The lord ordered a banquet to be prepared, which Su did not decline. In the Tang dynasty, he could afford to offend anyone. Except for those connected to Ching Chumo, caution was paramount in such matters. Chapter 336, An Encounter with an Old Friend in a Foreign Land. As the two engaged in drinking, Ching Chumo had already entered the city, taking the concubine along for a leisurely stroll through the bustling streets. 8 figures trailed a mere 10 steps behind Ching Chumo and his concubine, their gazes unwaveringly fixed upon the pair. The concubine's delicate visage reflected displeasure. She had anticipated that accompanying Ching Chumo would bring joy, yet the relentless scrutiny of the 8 was decidedly unwelcome, depriving them of any opportunity for intimacy. She turned her head sharply, casting a fierce glare at the onlookers, who, feeling guilty, averted their eyes. Such was the necessity of the situation. Ching Chumo's safety was paramount. To be candid, there was little of interest in the border town. It was merely a hub for merchants of the Tang dynasty. Let us venture into the lord's mansion, suggested Ching Chumo. However, several attendants obstructed his path, declaring, the lord is currently entertaining distinguished guests and will not see anyone. Their arms crossed. They exuded an air of superiority. Ching Chumo remained silent. The concubine, eager to voice her indignation, was pulled away by Ching Chumo. Why must you prevent me from teaching them a lesson? They regard others with such disdain, she exclaimed, her face a picture of resentment. This was her first encounter with such condescension since aligning herself with Ching Chumo. Remember, equality is a mere illusion. To command respect from strangers, one must be elegantly attired. To gain the esteem of those close, one must possess strength. Both inner and outer qualities are indispensable, Ching Chumo articulated. The concubine nodded, understanding this truth. Having recognized it during her time with the Chui family, where the head of the household was always accompanied by a retinue of over 100, regardless of necessity. For the sake of prestige, previously indifferent, Ching Chumo now felt compelled to care. What if he arrived here as an emperor? A single Su Jingzong could dismiss all others. What would transpire with Ching Chumo? Su Jingzong required the streets to be cleared, with citizens not daring to intrude upon his path. But Ching Chumo? Should he appear as emperor, not a single soul would inhabit the streets. All shops would shutter, and homes would be devoid of life, replaced by soldiers standing guard. This was not mere street cleansing. It was a thorough purging. The populace did not possess a shallow perspective. Rather, it was the image of an emperor that fostered such perceptions. Such ingrained habits, when will they ever dissipate? Pondered Ching Chumo. The display of pomp was indeed impressive. Yet how many harbored resentment and silence? His ancestors would surely be cursed by the masses, unaware of their scorn, blissfully self-satisfied, mistaking it for glory. I shall devise a means to eradicate such occurrences in the future, Ching Chumo vowed. The concubine tilted her head, her eyes sparkling with admiration. You truly possess grand ideas. My lord, she chimed, her laughter ringing like bells. Yet, she was not mocking Ching Chumo. She was laughing at the world's absurdities. Ching Chumo's expression darkened. How dare she jest at his expense? He halted, prompting her to stop as she gazed at him in confusion, uncertain of his intentions. Approaching, Ching Chumo slightly crouched. And she understood immediately. With a few steps, she positioned herself behind him, taking a running leap to clutch his neck with her arms, her legs entwined around his waist. Ching Chumo, supporting her with his hands beneath her, began to walk forward. She quickly adjusted her skirt, ensuring it concealed his hands from prying eyes. Ching Chumo smiled faintly. Was this not how you carried me to Bapan Mountain? He inquired. With a look of sweetness, the concubine replied. No, I had to drag you along as well. You are quite heavy, my lord. Am I not rather light? She teased. Am I not slender? Before Chung Chumo could respond, she leaned her head against his cheek, awaiting his affirmation. Indeed, Yinner is the slimmest, with the finest figure, he laughed heartily. The two soon arrived at a tavern, its sign emblazoned in Chinese characters. Unmistakably a Tang establishment. Upon entering, Chung Chumo was taken aback to see the proprietress, who gazed at him with tears in her eyes. Years had passed, and she was no longer the vibrant figure he remembered. Wrinkles adorned her face, and her attire had shifted to a modest, light red hanfu. I never thought I would see you here, she wept. It has been too long. Hurry and prepare a private room, and whip up a few of your signature dishes. Chung Chumo instructed. The proprietress wiped her tears and complied, leading him to the finest chamber, where he noticed a portrait of himself adorned with a poignant inscription, once a husband, but now alone, the youth I knew is lost. The proprietress moved to remove the portrait, but Chung Chumo halted her. It is quite lovely. Leave it be, he requested. She hesitated, but ultimately left it untouched. As he settled in, the concubine gazed adoringly at Chung Chumo before yawning. I am so tired. Please have the meal brought to my room. I wish to rest before eating, she declared, striding to the door to glare at the 8 followers. You all may leave as well, she commanded. As everyone departed, the proprietress hesitated. Where's your lord? She inquired. Chung Chumo noticed her forlorn smile, her tears still glistening. She lamented that had her lord been alive, she would not have left Fufeng County. She had intended to travel to Gansu, having heard of Chung Chumo's frequent appearances there, but was thwarted by floods, leading her to cross the plains to this place. Thankfully, the currency of the Tang dynasty was still accepted here, allowing her to establish a tavern. He passed away many years ago, she disclosed. Prepare a few dishes and share a drink with me, Chung Chumo urged. He had enjoyed many meals prepared by her in Fufeng County, where she had learned her culinary skills from him. The proprietress nodded and rose to cook. Soon, she returned with several dishes. These were just made. Let us eat, she announced. This is what the guests ordered, but today, I do not wish to entertain them, she added. Chung Chumo said nothing as he assisted in placing the food on the table. Let us sit and dine together, he invited. The proprietress responded with delight, pouring wine for Chung Chumo while filling her own cup. Fate brings us together across miles. To you, she toasted. They drank for quite some time, the proprietress becoming slightly inebriated as she nestled closer to Chung Chumo. I have grown old. Why did you not take action when I was younger? I would not have opposed it, she teased, emboldened by the wine. Chung Chumo remained silent. She leaned against him, tears spilling forth. I know you look down upon someone like me. I cannot compare to the women around you. Let me share a secret. How about you keep me company? She proposed. Chung Chumo did not respond, pondering the serendipity of reuniting with an old acquaintance, aware that the proprietress could not possibly grasp the weight of significant matters. She gazed up at him, her eyes reflecting vulnerability. Do you not believe me? Let me tell you this. My husband knew a secret, and that is why he is no longer here, she confided. Before his demise, my husband discreetly urged me to flee, mentioning that the 6 doors are comprised of 6 influential families, one of which is the esteemed Chui family of Qinghe. The proprietress then succumbed to intoxication, collapsing onto Chung Chumo's lap. Chapter 337. The unassuming proprietress Chung Chumo furrowed his brow. The Chui family is indeed one of the 6 doors? He lifted the proprietress and rose. Upstairs, he gently placed her on the bed and glanced at the smirking concubine beside him. A sense of uncertainty clouded his thoughts. If the Chui family truly held such significance, it could spell trouble. Should I venture out, my lord? The concubine inquired. Chung Chumo shook his head and turned to her. She mischievously winked at him, stirring a sense of intrigue within him. Feel free to ask whatever you wish, my lord, the concubine encouraged. Chung Chumo gazed into her eyes and suddenly comprehended the gravity of the situation. How could the proprietress have traversed such a vast distance from Fufeng County to Dashi Kingdom alone? It seemed implausible, bordering on impossible. In ancient times, safety was a mere illusion. The proprietress's journey resembled a woman embarking on a perilous expedition abroad, setting aside whether she could reach her destination. The sheer distance alone could take a year to traverse. Why did Li Shimin send you to the Chui family in Qinghe? Chung Chumo asked. The concubine admired his astuteness, recognizing his ability to connect the dots. I am uncertain, my lord. Li Shimin merely stated that the Chui family required special attention and subsequently sent me to marry the head of the family. At that time, he was already over 60 and in poor health, having never held my hand, the concubine recounted. Chung Chumo's suspicions deepened. It appeared that Li Shimin harbored intentions toward the Chui family during his lifetime, suggesting that the Chui family might indeed be one of the 6 doors. But who, then, was the proprietress? Chung Chumo was convinced she was no ordinary person, and he resolved to proceed with caution. Let us retire early, Chung Chumo suggested, moving to sit beside the proprietress. As he did so, she involuntarily twitched, her pores dilating. Chung Chumo found amusement in the contrast. She hardly resembled a seasoned matron. The proprietress coughed, exhaling a few breaths of alcohol, and slightly opened her eyes. Upon seeing Chung Chumo, she quickly covered her chest with her hands. My apologies. I have overindulged. Please disregard my state, she stammered, struggling to rise. Chung Chumo, having already established the truth, refrained from further actions. Do not worry. You may rest here, he reassured her. The The proprietress's face flushed with embarrassment as she averted her gaze. I am not in a position to do so these days, she said, hastily exiting the room while shielding her chest. The concubine closed the door behind her and approached Cheng Chumo to assist him in removing his shoes. Cheng Chumo reclined on the bed, with the concubine nestling against him. My lord, she began, but Cheng Chumo gently tapped her waist, prompting her to silence. There are issues with the proprietress, and this establishment surely harbors secrets, he discreetly inscribed on her waist. The concubine frowned. Be cautious. Our movements have been exposed. We cannot proceed to Arabia. We shall remain here. Please inform Su Jingzong to investigate the proprietress. Cheng Chumo wrote extensively on her waist. The concubine's face flushed. While she understood the initial words, the latter half eluded her, her thoughts consumed by romantic notions. My lord, she whispered. Rest well, he replied. The following morning, Cheng Chumo and the concubine awoke late, free from the need to continue their journey. After donning their attire, they descended the stairs. The proprietress was attending to guests and, upon spotting Cheng Chumo, hurried over, swaying her hips enticingly. Shall I take you to a private dining room? What would you like to eat today? The proprietress inquired. I desire fatty intestines, stir-fried mushrooms and greens, and poached fish. The concubine eagerly chimed in, selecting dishes that pleased both her and Cheng Chumo. The proprietress smiled and nodded before departing with a graceful sway. 8 patrons brushed past her without acknowledging one another. The concubine beckoned to Lang Mia. Deliver this letter to Su Jingzong, and recall our people from the Heavenly Society. We shall not proceed to the Arabian Empire, she instructed. Lang Mia glanced at Cheng Chumo, who exhibited no reaction. The concubine felt a swell of pride, relishing the trust bestowed upon her. Lang Mia accepted the letter and departed. Half an hour later, the proprietress returned, carrying a tray laden with dishes, and sat opposite Cheng Chumo. Do indulge. Everything is prepared by me, she offered. Cheng Chumo picked up his chopsticks. But the concubine was quicker, snatching a dish only to have it deftly knocked away by Cheng Chumo's chopsticks. I am your husband. Have you forgotten the decorum of dining out? He chided, his expression stern. The concubine's face fell, secretly touched by his protectiveness. She had intended to test for poison, but was surprised by his preemptive action. Cheng Chumo sampled a piece of fatty intestine, savoring the delightful flavor. Quite exquisite, he remarked after relishing the taste, eliciting a beaming smile from the proprietress as she eagerly served him more dishes. The concubine sat there, feeling like a neglected bystander, her demeanor sulking. Why are you lingering here while we dine? She retorted, attempting to dismiss the proprietress. The proprietress paused, smiling alluringly, then set down her chopsticks and stood to leave. Once she was gone, Cheng Chumo discreetly spat out his food. Chronic poison, colorless and tasteless, he remarked with a chuckle. The concubine gazed at him with admiration. My lord, you are truly remarkable. Cheng Chumo set down his chopsticks as Lang Ju entered, placing a parcel on the table. Inside, the contents revealed a beggar's chicken. This is all we have for now. My subordinates will procure something better for you tonight, Lang Ju stated. Cheng Chumo nodded, tearing off a chicken leg and placing it in the concubine's bowl. Enjoy, the rice is safe, he assured her before beginning his meal. The concubine, famished, clutched the chicken leg in one hand and wielded her chopsticks in the other, stuffing her cheeks to fullness. After satiating her hunger, she leaned against Cheng Chumo, patting her belly. Delicious, she remarked, gazing at the pile of bones. Her cheeks flushed as she realized she had out-eaten him. Lang Ju entered to tidy up the remnants. Cheng Chumo and the concubine rose to leave, only to be greeted by the proprietress. Did you enjoy your meal? She cooed sweetly. Humph. The fox spirit's cooking is utterly dreadful. I hardly touched it. The concubine interjected, positioning herself protectively in front of Cheng Chumo. Recognizing the proprietress's danger, the concubine sought to keep Cheng Chumo at a distance. The proprietress, however, remained unperturbed. Do stay a little longer, she urged, her expression one of feigned innocence. Cheng Chumo smiled and nodded, eliciting a glimmer of joy from the proprietress, who longed to embrace him, only to be thwarted by the concubine's presence. Vixen, my lord. Let us depart, the concubine said, tugging at Cheng Chumo's large hand as they made their way outside. Cheng Chumo cast a fleeting glance at the innkeeper's posterior, causing her to shudder at the memory of last night's inappropriate actions. Confused, she wondered why Cheng Chumo had changed since their time in Fufeng County. Had he become indulgent after ascending the throne? The innkeeper found herself unable to comprehend the sudden shift. A young waiter approached, whispering a few words into the innkeeper's ear. Her brows furrowed in surprise. Su Jingzong has actually arrived? She mused. Chapter 338. The Chini Gate, madam. Shall we follow them? The waiter inquired softly as Cheng Chumo and his entourage moved further away. The innkeeper shook her head, recognizing that Cheng Chumo was no ordinary individual. Trailing behind him would only alert him to their presence. As Cheng Chumo and his companions strolled through the streets, they had intended to observe the customs of the Great Stone Kingdom, but what they encountered was merely a reflection of the Tang Dynasty's own culture. In this era, the Tang Dynasty stood as the epicenter of global civilization. Civilization cannot merely be proclaimed, it is demonstrated through power. The Tang's military prowess rendered it the most civilized nation in the eyes of other countries. Were the Tang unable to assert its strength, then all its achievements would be deemed worthless. The voice of authority is forever accompanied by the weight of a fist. While meandering along the thoroughfare, they encountered Su Jingzong approaching them. Upon seeing Cheng Chumo, a shiver coursed through him. At this moment, Cheng Chumo was devoid of his disguise. Su Jingzong slightly bowed, refraining from speech. He understood that since Cheng Chumo was incognito, his identity must remain concealed. Has the task been completed? Cheng Chumo inquired. Su Jingzong nodded affirmatively. Cheng Chumo silently admired his efficiency. The concubine had only just entrusted him with the message, yet he had already acted upon it. No wonder emperors favored sycophants. Such efficiency was undeniable. Let us walk together, Cheng Chumo suggested. Su Jingzong complied, following a step behind as they conversed quietly about the innkeeper. She hailed from Taiyuan, having lost her parents at an early age. She had served as an unnamed soldier under Li Xiaoning before being recognized by Li Shimin and joining an untraceable organization. How do you know this? Cheng Chumo asked. Su Jingzong maintained his composure, cautiously responding, I conducted a discreet investigation into the entirety of Fufeng County. He chose not to elaborate further, aware that excessive information could lead to punishment. At that time, he had assisted Li Ji in dealing with Cheng Chumo. Thus he had sought to uncover every detail about him. Cheng Chumo remained speechless. If one Su Jingzong could delve so deeply, how many others like him were investigating Fufeng County? It was a daunting thought. Some secrets are simply too difficult to conceal. Indeed, everyone possesses their trump cards. I cannot afford to lack one. Can I trust you, Su Jingzong? Cheng Chumo questioned. Su Jingzong felt a surge of elation, his heart racing. Cheng Chumo appeared to be preparing to bring him into the inner circle. I can be trusted, Your Majesty. I have a son and a daughter. My daughter is quite lovely and could serve you as a maid. My son, though somewhat dull, could be made a eunuch to serve you with tea. Su Jingzong proposed. The concubine gasped in disbelief. Make your son a eunuch? Cheng Chumo chuckled. Su Jingzong was a shrewd man who understood people's hearts. He knew that Cheng Chumo would never truly allow his son to become a eunuch. He merely wished to express loyalty. No need for that. Since we cannot locate the 6 doors, I shall establish an organization, the 7 Xian Gate. You will discreetly scout for candidates, Cheng Chumo instructed. Su Jingzong agreed. The concubine looked at Cheng Chumo in confusion. Did we not find the innkeeper? We could trace the 6 doors through her. Cheng Chumo smiled knowingly, remaining silent. If Su Jingzong could not uncover the truth, he could guarantee his own failure. Rather than risk alerting others, it was wiser to retain the innkeeper as an informant. Write to Wu Zetian and instruct her to extend the railway to the Great Stone Kingdom, Cheng Chumo commanded. Wolf Ju shall handle it, Su Jingzong replied. Cheng Chumo returned to the inn with the concubine. The innkeeper awaited them at the entrance. Upon seeing her, the concubine huffed and ascended the stairs. The innkeeper wrapped her arms around Cheng Chumo. There is little to explore here. It is quite similar to the Tang dynasty, she remarked, leading him to a private room. You mentioned yesterday that the Qinghe Chui family is one of the 6 doors? Cheng Chumo said. The innkeeper nodded solemnly. Indeed, Your Majesty, I speak the truth. You must avenge me, she implored, her voice tinged with grievance as tears streamed down her face. Cheng Chumo embraced her, causing her to shudder. Her flirtatious demeanor was a facade. She was unaccustomed to such intimacy with Cheng Chumo. Soon, she felt herself melting against him, her small hands clenched tightly within her sleeves. She had not received orders to eliminate Cheng Chumo. Had she done so, she would have certainly disposed of this shameless man. Cheng Chumo's hands roamed inappropriately, sending tremors through the innkeeper. Since that is the case, allow me to assist you. Destroying the Qinghe Chui family is a simple task, Cheng Chumo remarked nonchalantly. The innkeeper scoffed inwardly, thinking it to be mere boastfulness. Is it truly that simple? Why not ascend to the heavens? Indeed, Your Majesty is the most formidable, she replied insincerely. Cheng Chumo, a master of romance, could discern her true feelings even without seeing her face. Both harbored their own thoughts as they sat together in silence. After a lengthy pause, the innkeeper could no longer endure the tension and attempted to rise. Cheng Chumo held her tightly. Frustrated, she thought to herself how shameless he was. I shall prepare a meal for you, she stammered, desperate to escape his embrace lest she succumb to her desires. Sensing the moment was right, Cheng Chumo released her. The innkeeper quickly stood, adjusting her skirt and exiting the room, walking awkwardly. Once outside, her face flushed with anger. She felt she had suffered a great loss. Returning to her room, she shut the door and began to curse Cheng Chumo. A loud knock resounded. Madam, a letter has arrived from Chang'an, the waiter announced from outside. The innkeeper took a deep breath and opened the door. The waiter handed her the letter before departing. Once inside, she closed the door and approached the bed to open the letter. It contained only a single line. Accompany Cheng Chumo to the Arab Empire and ensure his safety. After reading, the innkeeper burned the letter, her expression conflicted. Why must she protect Cheng Chumo? It was an unavoidable command. She could not defy her master. Had Cheng Chumo seen this letter, he would have been utterly astonished to find it written in the handwriting of Li Shimin, an elegant cursive. In the palace at the Ganlu Hall, Zizi stood with his head bowed. Wu Zetian sat across from him, her face darkened. Humph, do you wish to die? Do you think His Majesty cannot uncover your Qini Gate? I warned you that if you were found out, the consequences would be dire. Do not presume that your brother-in-law's affection grants you license to act recklessly. Even if he chooses not to pursue the matter, others certainly will, Wu Zetian declared vehemently. Zizi bit her lip, hesitant to speak. Raised by Wu Zetian, She feared her more than anyone else. Now, tell me, which families do the other 5 gates belong to? Wu Zetian demanded. Zizi looked at her with a pitiful expression, genuinely clueless. She had taken over the Qingyi Gate purely by accident. The Qingyi Gate was the least formidable of the 6 gates, mostly comprised of courtesans, and its numbers were scant. Only about 10,000. Sister, I truly do not know. I was simply idling in a small restaurant when those people began calling me Your Majesty. I genuinely have no idea. It was in Fufeng County, Zizi lamented. Wu Zetian smirked coldly, fully aware of Zizi's true disposition. Stop pretending. Why did you not weep when you were in bed with him? Just wait until the emperor learns of this. Let us see how you fare then, Wu Zetian retorted. Zizi looked genuinely anxious, realizing for the first time that the Qingyi Gate was one of the 6 gates. Wu Zetian sighed inwardly, surprised herself. She had assumed the 6 gates were merely 6 families, never anticipating that the Qingyi Gate alone would comprise so many people. What are the other 5 gates? Chapter 339. 2 gates exposed suddenly. Wu Zetian pondered a thought. The Lijiang Gate and the Qingyi Gate were already revealed. What might the remaining 4 gates be? Wu Zetian mused. Zizi cautiously approached and sat beside Wu Zetian, eager to please. Sister, what should I do? How should I speak to my brother-in-law? Zizi asked. Wu Zetian smiled wryly, gazing at Zizi with envy. To take over the Qingyi Gate merely by writing a few characters, Zizi had no comprehension of its significance. Entertainment venues were the most suitable for gathering intelligence. Possessing the Qingyi Gate was akin to controlling a vast intelligence network for the Tang dynasty, far more adept than any rogue. Yet now it was too late. The paramount task was to ensure the Qingyi Gate protected the emperor in secret. Should they take action against him, regardless of whether it was by your command, the blame would ultimately fall on you, Wu Zetian stated solemnly. Zizi was genuinely alarmed, never having anticipated this outcome. The duty of the 6 gates was to uphold imperial authority. Cheng Chumo's usurpation made him a common enemy. Without orders, they would instinctively retaliate against him. What am I to do? Zizi cried. Wu Zetian contemplated for a moment. Command the Qingyi Gate to conceal themselves. They must not act without orders, she instructed. Her reasoning was twofold. Eventually, others would seek out the Qingyi Gate, and then she could trace back to uncover the other 4 gates. Zizi nodded fervently, taking up pen and paper to hastily write, her thoughts racing. You must not act against my brother-in-law. If you do, I will be undone. She completed the order and instructed a palace maid to deliver it to a contact point in Chang'an. In the Dashi Kingdom, the proprietress received 2 directives. One commanded her to secretly protect Cheng Chumo, while the other warned her to maintain discretion and conceal her identity. The proprietress felt helpless to remain hidden. If she did not flee soon, Cheng Chumo would consume everything. She managed to restrain herself this time, but how would she cope if he persisted? Reluctantly, she recognized she could not defy the emperor's orders. Knock, knock, knock. What is it? The persistent knocking resumed. The proprietress, now impatient, wondered how it would not come to an end. Cheng Chumo's arrival portended trouble. It had been the same in Fufeng County, where the crowds were incessant. Someone claims to be the emperor's envoy and wishes to meet you, the young attendant announced from outside. The proprietress frowned. The emperor? A sardonic smile graced her lips. There was only one emperor of the Tang dynasty, and that was Cheng Chumo. Everyone acknowledged his authority. Whoever dared to refer to themselves as the emperor must surely be Li Ji. The proprietress's husband had not been murdered. Rather, her superior had succumbed to a plague. He had gone to great lengths to procure a medicine for her, allowing her to survive. Remembering this, the proprietress could hardly suppress her anger. Her emotions were tumultuous. She had poisoned Cheng Chumo today with an intriguing slow-acting toxin that would only take effect after several months. She hesitated. For the potion had been concocted by Cheng Chumo in Yuzhou, and it was common knowledge that he had saved her life. Tell him to leave. I shall see no one, the proprietress declared. In her heart, Li Ji was a fool, having squandered a winning hand. The young attendant complied and withdrew. The proprietress reclined on her intricately carved bed, bitterly smiling. Why must Cheng Chumo be the enemy? If Li Ji were the adversary, she could openly assist Cheng Chumo. The emperor has ordered me to ensure Cheng Chumo's safety? Why on earth would that be? Does Princess Jinyang not support her brother, but rather aid her foe? The proprietress pondered aloud. Gradually, she closed her eyes and fell into a deep slumber, utterly exhausted. The young attendant stepped outside to meet the envoy sent by Li Ji. The proprietress is unwell and cannot receive guests, he informed. The envoy, a young man of unknown origin, bore the features of a Tang person. He smiled and found a place to sit in the hall. Prepare some food and wine, the envoy instructed. The attendant complied, soon bringing out the refreshments. After taking a bite, the envoy tossed a piece of gold to the attendant. You are quite commendable. The emperor faces great adversity, but he shall return one day. If you assist him, you will earn his gratitude upon his return. Consider it, the envoy said. The attendant bowed and, without hesitation, agreed. Their loyalty lay with the royal family. Supporting Li Ji was not considered treachery. The envoy chuckled and produced a packet of medicine, tossing it to the attendant. The proprietress is quite appealing, but alas, she does not recognize good fortune. Give her this medicine, and I shall handle the rest, the envoy instructed. The attendant complied and departed. The envoy's eyes glimmered with a lascivious light. This scene was clearly observed by Cheng Chumo from above. Su Jingzong stood behind him, bowing. Your Majesty, I shall investigate his lineage and ensure his clan is eradicated, Su Jingzong declared. Cheng Chumo's enemies included Su Jingzong's associates, as well as the proprietress, a woman of considerable allure, whom the emperor would undoubtedly favor. This young man dared to harbor intentions toward the emperor's woman. He must perish. Cheng Chumo smiled, remaining silent. Su Jingzong did not inquire further. Serving the emperor required understanding. The emperor would not openly express his displeasure, yet he had to act. For only then could he remain in Cheng Chumo's favor. Follow me, Cheng Chumo commanded. Turning on his heel, he retreated to his chamber, with Su Jingzong trailing closely behind, closing the door behind them. What are your commands, Your Majesty? Su Jingzong asked. Cheng Chumo regarded him thoughtfully. I did not expect the son of Su Shanshan to behave in such a manner, Cheng Chumo remarked. Su Jingzong shuddered, speechless. Su Shanshan was renowned for his integrity. You, Su Jingzong, are the antithesis of your father. Cheng Chumo continued. There is often a reason behind the misfortune of the pitiable. And there is pity to be found in the contemptible. Such was the case with Su Jingzong. His father, Su Shanshan, was a devoted official under the Sui dynasty, serving as the deputy minister of rights. When Yang Guang was slain by Yu Wenhua in the southern regions, the populace rallied behind Yu Wenhua. Yet Su Shanshan stood alone in his defiance, ultimately leading to his demise. Su Jingzong fled with his family to Wagong, relying on alms for survival, and ultimately, he alone remained. From that point on, he ceased to venerate his father, doing precisely the opposite of his father's wishes. For good men do not necessarily live long. If my father was right, why did he perish? Shouldn't loyal ministers enjoy a longer life? Su Jingzong raised his gaze to meet Cheng Chumo's eyes, filled with sincerity. This question had haunted Su Jingzong throughout his existence. Cheng Chumo smiled, refraining from offering counsel. He would not indulge in platitudes about doing good without questioning the outcome. I fully endorse your actions. I shall not constrain you. However, you must understand that there exists a reckoning, Cheng Chumo remarked. Su Jingzong lowered his head, aware that a favorable ending was unlikely for him. But so what? At least he had acted. When he gained power, he annihilated the Yuan family, slaying Yu Wenhua's brother. That was sufficient. If you diligently fulfill your duties, I promise you a peaceful conclusion. The reckoning shall not touch you, Cheng Chumo assured. Su Jingzong gazed at Cheng Chumo in disbelief. Could he truly be valued so highly? Do not doubt. Your father was a man of virtue. And I shall not let virtuous men feel disheartened. Your debts have been settled by your father in the afterlife, Cheng Chumo added. Su Jingzong bowed deeply, remaining prostrated for an extended period. This bow conveyed more than 1,000 words. Chapter 340. Cheng Chumo is busy. This place will not be peaceful. I do not care what means you employ. You must stabilize the entire Dashi kingdom before the Tang army arrives, Cheng Chumo commanded. As you wish, Su Jingzong replied. His expression grave as he recognized the formidable nature of this task, which differed significantly from diplomatic negotiations. The Dashi kingdom served as a buffer for the Arab Empire. If the gates here are opened, the Tang and Arab empires will confront each other directly, and the one who seizes the Dashi kingdom will possess the initiative. As Su Jingzong exited the room, he was followed by Lang Mia. Cheng Chumo tapped gently on the table with his fingers, producing a rhythmic sound. A concubine entered, taking a seat beside him. Aren't you concerned about the dangers facing the proprietress? The concubine inquired. Cheng Chumo responded. The proprietress is our sole lead. She cannot come to harm. The concubine produced a letter from her bosom, stating, This is from Chang'an. Cheng Chumo opened the letter, and his expression shifted to one of intrigue. The concubine, unable to bear the suspense, averted her gaze in an effort to suppress her curiosity. Cheng Chumo handed the letter to her, and she eagerly accepted it, her anticipation palpable. Upon reading, the concubine gazed at Cheng Chumo in bewilderment. My lord, this is rather chaotic. How is it that the Z is the leader of the Qingyi sect? She asked. Cheng Chumo was astonished. Not merely by the revelation of the Z's identity, but by the depth of power held by the Six Doors organization. He had assumed the Six Doors to be comparable to the Lijing sect, only to discover that Lijing was merely one of the branches of the Six Doors. Protect the proprietress. She must remain unharmed, Cheng Chumo instructed. The concubine nodded in agreement. Proprietress, would you like some tea? A young servant inquired from outside the door, holding a tea tray. Upon entering, the proprietress took the tray and asked, Has he left? The young servant shook his head. He's still downstairs. The proprietress's countenance darkened, filled with turmoil over her next steps. Returning to her room, she sat in contemplation, sipping tea, her eyes narrowing. If they won't leave, then I'll eliminate them, she muttered to herself, draining the cup. Suddenly, the door burst open, and an envoy entered with a boisterous laugh, flanked by several attendants. Who are you? The proprietress demanded, her face tightening as she retreated to the bed to grasp a short sword. Her resolve faltered. The young servant stepped in, standing behind the envoy, and the proprietress glared at him, realization dawning upon her. Do you think this will compel me to yield? Humph. Help. The people of Fufeng County are being oppressed. The proprietress cried, cupping her hands to amplify her voice. Both the envoy and the young servant were taken aback, astonishment written across their faces. No one anticipated that the proprietress would resort to such a declaration. She was expected to endure, yet with pride in her eyes. She knew that had Cheng Chumo not been present, she would have resisted to the end. She was indeed a member of the Qingyi sect. But she was also a citizen of Fufeng County, belonging to Cheng Chumo's people. It must be said, her call was remarkably effective. The proprietress's room was soon besieged, and Lang Ju forcefully breached the roof, tumbling into the room, momentarily losing his footing. He hastily rose, feigning nonchalance. The proprietress burst into laughter, her cheeks flushing with anger as she glared at the envoy. "You are truly despicable, administering such poison to me," she exclaimed. The envoy, once arrogant, now stood stiff and bewildered. "What is happening?" The concubine entered, hands clasped behind her back, casting a cursory glance at the envoy. Approaching the proprietress, she asked, "Are you poisoned? Do you need my lord's assistance in detoxifying?" The proprietress's expression darkened, the toxins within her body becoming increasingly unmanageable. "Humph, vixen," the concubine retorted, casting a scornful glance at Lang Ju. "What are you waiting for? Eliminate them," she commanded. The 7 formidable figures sprang into action, and after several exchanges, only the envoy remained standing. Lang Ju turned to the concubine. "Deliver this envoy to Su Jingzong for investigation. His Majesty lacks the inclination to deal with them." The concubine nodded in agreement and escorted the envoy away. She then turned to the proprietress, who opened her mouth to speak, but before she could utter a word, the concubine stuffed a pill into her mouth. "This is a detoxification pill prepared by Sun Simiao. Dream on if you think my lord will detoxify you," the concubine declared triumphantly. The proprietress stared at her in shock, her expression sour. The notion of seeking Cheng Chumo's aid in detoxification was deeply distasteful to her, as it pertained to her integrity. Yet, she could not tolerate such treatment. "I will seek His Majesty for an antidote," the proprietress declared, twisting her waist as she exited the room. Upon arriving at Cheng Chumo's quarters, she found him engrossed in military dispatches. The Tang army would not reach the Dashi kingdom for another month. Setting the documents aside, he looked up at the proprietress. "What brings you here?" he inquired. The proprietress, no fool, understood that her cover had been blown. She boldly sat across from him. "You know everything, don't you?" she stated. Cheng Chumo nodded nonchalantly, picking up another dispatch. "The Tianyuan left guard has already stationed itself in Noboluo," he replied, exhaling in relief, thankful for the swift movements of the Tianyuan left guard. The only remaining stronghold was the Dashi kingdom. "Report. There has been a disturbance in the Dashi kingdom," Lang Mier announced. Entering the room and placing a dispatch on the table before departing, Cheng Chumo perused the memorial. The Arab Empire had already dispatched troops to occupy the capital of the Great Stone Kingdom, effectively controlling the entire realm. After finishing the document, Cheng Chumo set it down. Realizing he was a step too late, summon the officials, he commanded. "Order Shui Rengui to support the border cities of the Great Stone Kingdom, and instruct Fugui to do the same. Direct the naval forces of the Tang dynasty to search the seas for the landing site of the Arab Empire." Cheng Chumo remarked. "The wolf is at the door." He turned to the landlady, asking, "What did you just say?" The landlady gazed at him, her expression complex. The few simple memorials she had seen revealed much. The entire Tang dynasty resembled a war machine, with Cheng Chumo at the helm. In the prime of his life, the Tang dynasty was brimming with aggression towards the outside world, with internal stability and a treasury that was alarmingly abundant. When else would they engage in warfare? "I am your enemy," the landlady stated. Just then, a traveler entered, presenting a state document and leaving without a word. Cheng Chumo opened it, scoffing. "Do they think me easily deceived? To send troops to seize the Great Stone Kingdom while delivering a state document to me? Are they attempting to mislead me? Had I not been here, I might have fallen for their ruse." The document was from the Arab Empire. "Let us engage in battle to test the waters." Cheng Chumo mused coldly. The landlady, rendered speechless, felt dismissed. "Do not linger here. Fetch me some tea," he ordered. The landlady, momentarily stunned, complied. Cheng Chumo took a sip and remarked, "I do not favor hot tea. Please remember that next time." The landlady hesitated to speak, but Cheng Chumo did not grant her the opportunity. He was too preoccupied to engage with her. "Command Su Dingfang to advance at full speed. I shall give him 10 days, Cheng Chumo declared. Outside, the traveler was presumably attending to matters. Cheng Chumo rubbed his forehead, then set his hand down. "Can you attend to me?" "Rub my shoulders," he instructed. "Oh," the landlady replied, dazed and confused. Chapter 341, Where There Are Women. There is the Jianghu. The landlady diligently massaged Cheng Chumo's shoulders, grappling with 100 thoughts unsaid. "Do you know the relationship between your lord and Princess Jinyang?" Cheng Chumo asked with closed eyes. The landlady halted, shocked into silence. It became evident that Cheng Chumo was fully aware of everything. "When Guanin's maid was pregnant, I personally carried her back to Chang'an," he continued. "After Princess Jinyang's birth, she was raised in Ganlu Palace, closest to Wu Zetian, who is under my command. Do you think Princess Jinyang would conceal anything from me?" Cheng Chumo placed a letter on the table. The landlady picked it up with trembling hands, reading it through. Once finished, she seemed to lose all her strength, collapsing to the ground. "Am I the only one left in the dark?" she sobbed. It was her efforts that enabled Zizi to become the leader of the Qingyi sect. The sect had a rule: orders from anyone were meaningless unless they were written. The writing, of course, was that of Li Shimin. That day, Zizi had casually dined at the landlady's tavern, and upon writing a character, she caught the landlady's eye, thus ascending to her position. "Do not weep, rise and get to work. Did you not hear me say my shoulders ache?" Cheng Chumo commanded. The landlady, infuriated, stood up. Feeling deceived, She resumed her massage with fervor. How many members does the Qingyi sect have in the Great Stone Kingdom? Cheng Chumo inquired. The landlady hesitated, wanting to ask why he was inquiring when he already knew, but refrained. Over 500, all gathering intelligence, she replied. Cheng Chumo desired the Qingyi sect's assistance, but the landlady remained silent. The Qingyi sect only followed their lord's commands. It was a principle that could not be broken, for if it were, the sect would lose its unity. Cheng Chumo, resigned, decided to write to Wu Zetian, requesting her to send Zizi to him. Go about your business. Your lord will soon arrive in the Great Stone Kingdom, he instructed. The landlady exited the room, closing the door behind her. As she turned to leave, she encountered a concubine, who regarded her with a knowing smile. The landlady felt a chill run down her spine. She had initially thought the concubine merely a consort, but soon realized she was a formidable figure, the ninth traveler of the Tiantian Society. The landlady was acutely aware of the Tiantian Society's strength, knowing well that its members were scattered throughout the Tang dynasty. The true leader of the realm was not Cheng Chumo, but rather his daughter, Xinran. Is this how you depart? Without a moment's rest? The concubine inquired. The landlady considered glaring at her, but remembered that the concubine had saved her and provided her with medicine. No, you should return to sleep, the landlady replied. The concubine took the landlady's hand, leading her downstairs, regardless of her consent. They arrived at a private room. You owe your loyalty to the people of the Tang dynasty, not to any individual. Little Zizi bears no blame. The affairs of the Qingyi sect are unrelated to her. Should you dare to act in her name, I will ensure your downfall, believe me. I have allies, the concubine warned fiercely. Cheng Chumo's women respected Empress Changsun, and they inherently understood how to navigate matters without her explicit direction. For instance, Zizi was the apple of every woman's eye. While she initially wished to remain uninvolved with Cheng Chumo, Zizi's affections for him were undeniable, and Empress Changsun did not oppose it. Any objections would have been futile. Zizi was quite resolute. The landlady fell silent, sensing the lethal undertones in the concubine's words. There were indeed individuals within the Qingyi sect that were not to be trifled with. Women from Gansu, for example, were particularly formidable. The widow Xiaohuan, the princess of Liao, now integrated into the Tang dynasty, commanded great respect. Wu Shun, sister of Wu Mingyang, expertly wielded sign language, effectively controlling the shadows. Li Qingwen, sister of the current head of the Li family, was another formidable figure. And then there was the concubine before her. The ninth traveler of the Tiantian Society, smallest in rank but greatest in power. The landlady slightly bowed. Rest assured, ninth traveler, I understand what must be done, she affirmed. The concubine instantly donned a smile. Sister, you are wonderful. Come sleep with me tonight, she suggested. The abrupt shift in demeanor left the landlady speechless. Truly, not to be underestimated, she mused. His Majesty would not approve. The concubine leaned in, whispering conspiratorially. The landlady's cheeks flushed crimson, akin to a ripe apple. The concubine informed her that Cheng Chumo's legitimate wives were all of imperial rank, leaving the rest to merely hold the title of concubine. To thrive in this environment, they would need to unite. The concubine sincerely invited the landlady to join her faction. In a flurry, the landlady fled. How dull, the concubine remarked. Su Jingzong arrived downstairs. Bowing to the concubine. I have met the ninth traveler, he said. The concubine returned the gesture. You are a favored individual in His Majesty's court. I cannot accept your bow. Though one may claim to be daunted, their posture remains unwaveringly erect. Su Jingzong is well aware of the intricacies at play. Where there are women, there lies a realm of intrigue, a veritable cacophony of activity. The interrogation has concluded. The individual in question has been dispatched by Li Ji, aiming to infiltrate Qinjimen in pursuit of intelligence regarding the Tang dynasty. Su Jingzong remarks that this matter does not require Cheng Chumo's intervention. Burdening Cheng Chumo with every decision will surely exhaust him. If Li Ji seeks information, then I must thwart his desires, commanding that all news pertaining to the Tang be sealed tight, revealing only a fragment to entice him. The woman muses, 8 emissaries should suffice. A bead of cold sweat trickles down Su Jingzong's brow as he contemplates the ruthless nature of the emperor's inner circle. The woman seems to pierce through his thoughts. Oh, this is merely the prologue. Should you encounter the generals nurtured by His Majesty, you will grasp the essence of true malevolence, she declares. Those trained by Cheng Chumo are all rather sinister. They may fail to learn other skills, yet their proficiency in the art of massacre is unmistakable. Half a month later, Su Dingfang finally arrives at the border city. Cheng Chumo stands upon the city walls, his gaze fixed on the distant Arab forces, who do not launch a hasty assault. They lack precise intelligence regarding the border city. Cheng Chumo remarks, a single misstep may lead to disastrous consequences. Su Dingfang's face flushes with embarrassment, realizing he has been chastised. Let us regroup for 3 days, and then engage in battle. I wish to ascertain the capabilities of the Arab Empire, Cheng Chumo further instructs. Su Dingfang acquiesces. Behind him, Fang Yai steps forward to bow. Your Majesty, why have you removed me from Chang'an? Do you harbor intentions towards Princess Gaoyang? Fang Yai inquires. Su Jingzong glares at him, bewildered by such foolishness. How could a man as astute as Fang Xianling produce such an imbecile? He wonders, racking his brain for an explanation. Su Dingfang's expression darkens with ire as he strides toward Fang Yai, delivering a resounding slap that sends him spinning. Silence. Su Dingfang roars. Fang Yai immediately complies, having endured sufficient beatings on this journey, for he is indeed Su Dingfang's apprentice. Cheng Chumo remains indifferent to the ruckus, regretting his decision to allow this fool to partake in warfare. Perhaps it would be wiser to let Fang Yai lead the first skirmish, Su Dingfang suggests. Cheng Chumo retorts. That is your concern. The command of the troops lies with you, and I shall not interfere. I only seek results. Night descends, and the atmosphere is unusually lively. The usual cacophony of frogs and crickets falls silent, while the dogs in the city howl frantically. Inside the inn, Cheng Chumo wears a grave expression, recalling a saying, when frogs croak, sleep soundly, when they fall silent, flee swiftly. The behavior of frogs serves as a portent for impending earthquakes. His Majesty's forces have retreated. We must depart, Su Dingfang asserts. Let us inspect the well. As they gather at the well, the water remains eerily tranquil, devoid of ripples. Cheng Chumo chuckles, acknowledging the Arab Empire's cunning. He commands the troops outside the city to return and instructs the citizens to evacuate, for a battle is imminent that very night. Upon returning to the inn, Su Dingfang comprehends that signs of an earthquake must precede its occurrence, such as the unusual stillness of the well water. The cacophony of barking dogs can be orchestrated in myriad ways, as can the silence of the frogs, which can be achieved by cooling the water temperature at a significant cost, a feasible endeavor for a nation. The townsfolk, laden with their belongings, make their exodus from the city, all while the Arab general observes with keen interest. A mere stratagem suffices to compel the Tang forces to relinquish control of the border city, bringing the entirety of the Great Stone Kingdom under the Empire's dominion. Advance into the city, the Arab general commands, as others lavish praise upon him. On a high ground, Cheng Chumo stands with hands clasped behind his back, watching the procession of torches. Su Dingfang stands beside him, ordering the cavalry to assault the enemy's 5,000 troops outside the city. Fang Yai acknowledges the command and leads 2,000 Tang cavalry into the fray, directing artillery to bombard the enemy's retreat route. Su Dingfang continues to issue orders, while Cheng Chumo remains silent, relishing Su Dingfang's adept command of the battle, a seamless orchestration of strategy. Su Dingfang's demeanor remains steadfast. This is his forte, defensive maneuvers and counterattacks, executed with great finesse on this night. Cheng Chumo quietly departs, inwardly admiring Su Dingfang's prowess. Had it been any other emperor, they would have micromanaged the engagement. Yet Cheng Chumo refrains from interference, explaining the loyalty he commands. Under his guidance, true talents are allowed to flourish. The battle rages for a day and a night. The enemy forces cleaved in twain, unable to support one another. The Tang troops breached the enemy encampment, sending soldiers scattering in disarray. The Arab forces, however, managed to stabilize and begin organizing a counteroffensive. Inside a carriage, Cheng Chumo sips tea, noting that Su Dingfang still has room for improvement. Had it been his master, Li Jing, the enemy would not have been afforded an opportunity for retaliation. Cheng Chumo reflects, while adept at fortification, your command leaves something to be desired. The innkeeper remains silent, casting glances toward the border city, her painstakingly constructed establishment likely in peril. Suddenly, a thunderous roar echoes as the Arab Empire reveals their trump card, their artillery. Cheng Chumo's tea momentarily halts mid-sip, splattering as he exclaims, Li Ji, you shall pay dearly. The woman hastily retrieves a towel to clean the spilled tea, though the innkeeper may not grasp the implications. She understands that artillery represents a pivotal strategic weapon for the Tang, one that the Arab Empire now possesses, a technology that ordinary folk could scarcely acquire. The only plausible explanation for the Arabs' possession of such weaponry is Li Ji's involvement. The Arab forces commence bombardment, and Su Dingfang is momentarily taken aback, his expression darkening. He orders an artillery counterattack, proclaiming, by decree of His Majesty, target the Arab artillery positions. Wolfmai strides before Su Dingfang, emphasizing the urgency of action. The enemy has revealed their firepower. Now is not the time for hesitation. Su Dingfang acquiesces, acknowledging the chaotic state of affairs. With a resounding boom, the cannons unleash their fury. The Arab artillery positions are swiftly engulfed in fire, many cannons obliterated in the onslaught. The Arab general clenches his fists, commanding a full retreat. While the Tang artillery bombards our positions, the 5,000 troops we sent into the city must finally evacuate, he orders. The cannonade intensifies, a relentless barrage stretching onward as they pursue the fleeing enemy for 30 miles, resulting in the demise of 20,000 foes. 3 days later, Cheng Chumo returns to the border city, the inn remarkably intact, spared from the enemy's wrath. The proprietress wore a joyful expression. Cheng Chumo sat quietly in a private room, while Su Dingfang occupied the seat opposite him. Command Wang Xuanzi to launch an offensive from the direction of Naipo Luo, instruct Shui Ringgui to support the frontier city, and designate Su Dingfang as the Grand Commander of the Western Jiangdao, Cheng Chumo ordered. Su Dingfang complied, feeling a bitter pang within. Following the battle, the emperor would likely replace him. He understood his own capabilities. Defense was his strength, but offense was not. I take my leave, Su Dingfang said, rising to bow. Cheng Chumo nodded subtly at the battle report. After Su Dingfang departed, Lang Nye entered, carrying the diplomatic letter from the Arab Empire, placing it on the table before leaving. Ching Chumo glanced at it briefly before dismissively tossing it aside. The Great Stone Kingdom is mine. If they do not withdraw, we shall fight, he muttered to himself. Half a month later, Shui Ringgui arrived at the frontier city in a flurry. Upon seeing Ching Chumo, he bowed. I pay my respects, Your Majesty. I was concerned for your safety and arrived ahead of my troops, who will take 2 months to reach here. Following him were more than a dozen fire-headed soldiers. Ching Chumo nodded. You may decide for yourself. Take command of the military camp. Su Dingfang's 50,000 troops shall temporarily fall under your command. Shui Ringgui acknowledged the order. While the fire-headed soldiers kept their heads down, their hearts heavy. They had never imagined that the once divine general would become the emperor of the Tang dynasty. Ching Chumo arrived at the city lord's residence. The lord of the frontier city hurriedly bowed upon seeing him. I pay my respects, Uncle Chung, he said. Ha ha ha. Good. If you call me uncle and I do not grant you a princely title, I would appear miserly. Henceforth, you shall be a prince of the Tang dynasty. Ching Chumo laughed heartily, patting the lord's shoulder. The city lord rejoiced. Shui Ringgui, following closely behind Ching Chumo, felt a pang of envy. Was a princely title merely a matter of addressing someone as uncle? Your Majesty, I can also call you uncle, Shui Ringgui remarked. Ching Chumo paused, his expression darkening. Conquer the Great Stone Kingdom, and I shall grant you a princely title, but do not vex me, he replied. Shui Ringgui was speechless, pondering why it was vexatious. He had no doubt about capturing the Great Stone Kingdom and felt he could not be deemed equal to Ching Chumo. As they entered the city lord's residence, Shui Ringgui gazed at the map on the wall. In 3 months, I shall present the Great Stone Kingdom to your Majesty, he asserted. Ching Chumo did not respond. General Shui, you must be cautious. They possess artillery, Su Jingzong warned. Feeling somewhat apprehensive since he had offended both of the Tang's renowned generals, Shui Ringgui and Wang Xuanzi. Shui Ringgui shot a glare at Su Jingzong, but said nothing, thinking, you old fool, just wait. Chapter 342. Entering the Arab Empire go, Ching Chumo commanded, and the group departed. The concubine and the proprietress entered, preparing to set off. We are ready. Let us embark, Ching Chumo declared. With Shui Ringgui now at the Great Stone Kingdom, the remaining matters were his to resolve. Ching Chumo intended to journey to the Arab Empire. Li Ji must perish. The Arab Empire now possessed artillery, and as long as Li Ji lived, he could divulge all secrets of the Tang dynasty. Ching Chumo would not naively believe that the Tang was a united front. The concubine agreed, but the proprietress expressed concerns. The Arab Empire is not like the Tang. It is perilous. There was no rebuttal to that. On that day, a carriage departed silently. Shui Ringgui launched attacks elsewhere to divert attention successfully. Half a month later, Ching Chumo crossed into the Arab Empire, replacing all horses with camels. As the terrain was predominantly semi-desert, sand and oases were prevalent. To shield themselves from the sun, the locals donned white cloths atop their heads, which not only protected them from the sun, but also shielded their eyes from sandstorms. Fortunately, the carriage was usable. Wooden wheels would have sunk into the sand. Ching Chumo reclined in the carriage, dozing off, while the 2 women were fidgety, their expressions grim. They found the environment unbearable, feeling coated in sand and utterly uncomfortable. Your Majesty, let us return. This is too dreadful, the concubine lamented, unable to tolerate the sensation of sand clinging to them, with no water for bathing. She was on the verge of losing her composure. The proprietress was no better off. For someone accustomed to cleanliness, this place was akin to hell. Ching Chumo was roused by the concubine tugging at him. She looked at him with a pitiful gaze. Ching Chumo sighed. Is it truly that unbearable? There will be an oasis ahead, and you can wash once we arrive, he assured her. The concubine remained aggrieved, throwing herself into his embrace and weeping. Ching Chumo gently patted her back. Truth be told, he did not relish this place either. It was no wonder that throughout history, it had never received serious attention. It was indeed a wretched location. How much longer until we reach the oasis? Ching Chumo inquired. Half a month. Camels move slowly, Lang Mia responded from outside. Upon hearing that it would take another half-month, the concubine's sorrow deepened, her despair palpable. Ching Chumo, feeling helpless, decided to conduct a thorough cleaning of the carriage. That night, the concubine and the proprietress commenced a cleanup, using a little water to scrub the carriage until it gleamed. Every crevice was stuffed with cloth to prevent sand from entering. As Ching Chumo attempted to enter, the 2 women scolded him, fearing even a speck of sand. They changed into thin nightgowns. Upon re-entering the carriage, Ching Chumo felt elated. The absence of sand was indeed a relief. The concubine and the proprietress also wore expressions of joy. They lit candles and shared dried beef. Days without sand were truly enjoyable. After their meal, the concubine nestled against Ching Chumo and fell asleep. The proprietress watched enviously. Ching Chumo extended an arm, taking the proprietress's hand and gently pulling her to lie against him, allowing her to close her eyes and drift into peaceful slumber. In the middle of the night, Ching Chumo opened his eyes. My lord, we have encountered desert bandits. Lang Mia reported. How many? Ching Chumo asked. Approximately 300, Lang Mia replied. Resolve it with firearms, Ching Chumo instructed. He had brought both short and long guns for this outing, with several carriages on hand to tackle any unforeseen circumstances. Soon, gunfire erupted. But Ching Chumo paid it no mind, closing his eyes again to sleep. The 2 women, unable to rest, lay on either side of him. The concubine opened a small gap in the curtain, revealing a layer of glass, through which she peered outside. They were disguised as a merchant convoy, comprising over 100 individuals and more than 300 camels. Husband, many people outside have perished. Why do they continue to charge? The concubine asked. Cheng Chumo did not respond. The fates of those individuals had already been sealed. Few among them had received any education. Religious governance differs greatly from that of the Tang dynasty's populace. In the Tang dynasty, the common people could embrace religion, provided it proved beneficial. If it failed to yield results, they would simply move on. In stark contrast, the Arab Empire imposed religion upon its subjects, who faced consequences for their lack of faith. The Tang dynasty, however, allowed its people the autonomy to choose their beliefs. If the authorities failed to deliver, it was they who were deemed guilty. One scenario embodies passive acceptance, while the other embodies active selection. The Tang dynasty was not devoid of sects. Many existed, but they were cast aside for one simple reason: ineffectiveness. There is a saying about the people of the Tang dynasty: they are the most pragmatic. Deceiving them is a formidable task, yet it is achievable, provided one invests considerably. An intriguing incident occurred when someone attempted to short-sell gold, resulting in an influx of hundreds of billions into the market, which was completely bought up within 3 days. This was a boon for the populace. Consequently, capitalists found themselves adorned with a certain stigma, and public scrutiny surged. Elderly women began to keep a watchful eye on them, hoping for another opportunity to short-sell gold. The capitalists, not wishing to disappoint, attempted to short-sell multiple times, only to be thwarted before they could even begin. Gunfire subsided, and Cheng Chumo realized that the battle outside had concluded. The enemy had been entirely vanquished, and lingering here was unwise. We must hasten, he declared, urging the team onward. Soon, they arrived at a scene of carnage, where the leader gazed with a grim expression at the countless corpses strewn about. What manner of death is this? They bear wounds of blood, one among them questioned in a foreign tongue. The leader shook his head, recognizing the complexity of this caravan. If we sell the news, others will seize it if we cannot. Half a month later, Cheng Chumo arrived at an oasis, home to unique flora and a vast lake, devoid of human presence. Dismounting his carriage, he inhaled the moist air, feeling invigorated. His concubine and the proprietress alighted as well, eager to approach the lakeside. We cannot go, it is too perilous, he cautioned. The two stared at him, puzzled by the perceived danger in such tranquility. Wolf Melt hurled a stone, which prompted a swarm of scorpions to erupt. The concubine turned pale with fright. Wolf Melt retrieved a pouch of sulfur from the rear carriage, scattering it as he advanced toward the lake. The sulfur proved highly effective, causing countless serpents and vermin to flee in all directions. The faces of the proprietress and the concubine grew even paler, and with a scream, they leapt onto Cheng Chumo, clinging to him and refusing to descend. Cheng Chumo sighed, regretting bringing them along. The journey had been fraught with challenges. He turned to Wolf Melt, who grasped his intent and began to encircle the area with more sulfur, spreading it beneath his feet. A scorpion scuttled past Cheng Chumo, nearly causing the two women to faint. They scrambled for higher ground, ultimately perching on his shoulders. Cheng Chumo frowned. Do you wish to ascend to the heavens? Amidst their cries of terror, the concubine lamented, I will not come down. It is too terrifying. Chapter 343. Arrival at the Arab royal city. After a considerable time spent calming the two, they finally dismounted, each clutching one of Cheng Chumo's arms. Wolf Melt and the others had already ignited a fire. The women fetched water from the carriage and, after washing up, descended once more, their spirits markedly lifted. Cheng Chumo observed with satisfaction. They appeared much more vibrant than before. The group began to prepare food, catching fish and numerous snakes from the lake. Many cobras surrounded the carriage, but they dared not cross the boundary marked by sulfur. The concubine retrieved Cheng Chumo's long spear from the carriage, loading it to shoot at the snakes. The proprietress requested a pistol of her own, and together they commenced their hunt. The cobras scattered in fear, and the women beamed with pride. This was the cost of intimidating them. The food was prepared: roasted fish and snake. Cheng Chumo consumed several snake gallbladders, while the women distanced themselves, finding it repulsive. Cheng Chumo frowned, bemused by their earlier bravado. Women are indeed peculiar creatures. Good sirs, may we rest near you for mutual protection? A man called from 30 meters away, clasping his hands in greeting. Wolf Melt rose to inquire further. Shortly thereafter, he returned with news that they were also merchants from the Tang dynasty, seeking a place to rest. Cheng Chumo regarded the distant figures, over a dozen camels and 5 individuals. Merely a small trading party. Let them approach, he instructed. Since they are fellow Tang people, it is only right to assist them. The concubine and proprietress returned to their carriage, preferring to tend to their camels. Soon, the newcomers arrived, and the fish continued to roast over the fire. Help yourselves, Cheng Chumo invited. The merchants expressed their gratitude. Cheng Chumo inquired further. They were on their way to the Arab Empire to seek fortune. Having heard of the tax exemptions there, are you also seeking wealth? One asked. Our Tang dynasty is powerful, and merchants like us command respect wherever we go, even in the Arab Empire. Cheng Chumo smiled knowingly. Such merchants undoubtedly possessed connections, and the true nature of their backing remained a mystery. If they hailed from wealthy families, offending them might not matter, but to incur the ire of influential clans would be perilous, as outsiders knew well the power such families wielded in the Tang dynasty. At present, Cheng Chumo adopted a lenient stance toward these clans, which had been on the verge of decline but were now beginning to regain their footing. Are you not aware of the conflict between the Tang dynasty and the Arab Empire in the Dashi kingdom? Cheng Chumo queried. The merchants exchanged knowing glances and chuckled. Rest assured, the Dashi kingdom does not belong to either the Tang or the Arab Empire. The skirmishes there are merely a test. Our new emperor is a divine general. Should he wish for war, it would not be a mere whisper of conflict. The Arab Empire would surely face turmoil, one merchant asserted. Cheng Chumo was taken aback, impressed by their insight. They were indeed correct. The decision to engage in conflict in the Dashi kingdom stemmed from two primary factors. Firstly, the Dashi kingdom served as a gateway that both factions sought to control. Secondly, the actual confrontations there were inconsequential, akin to proxy wars. Although both parties participated directly, neither would acknowledge it. They would only state that some unfortunate incidents transpired in the Dashi kingdom, which were ultimately resolved through negotiation. Despite the reality of heads being smashed like so many dogs, are there many people coming to the Arab Empire? Cheng Chumo inquired. The merchants nodded vigorously, their excitement palpable. At least 100,000 are here to engage in trade, they reported. Cheng Chumo nodded in understanding, turning his gaze to Wolfmelt. Please, take your time to eat. Langmia, you can chat with them, Cheng Chumo said. After speaking, he stood up and returned to the carriage. As he entered, the two women began to prepare a bath for him. Naturally, they were unwilling for him to simply enter after they had just cleaned themselves. A merchant glanced in that direction, pondering the status of this individual in the Tang dynasty, noting that he was traveling with maidservants. He must hold a considerable position. The merchant whispered. Langmia chuckled but refrained from responding. In the Tang dynasty, one's status could not be easily measured. Accompanying two maidens was trivial when compared to the thousands dispersed throughout the land. After Cheng Chumo was cleansed, he stepped into the carriage. He noticed the stark temperature difference. It was excessively warm during the day but quite cold at night. He shivered several times, prompting the maidservant to quickly drape a blanket over him. Rest well, my lord, she said. Cheng Chumo shot a glare at her, to which she playfully stuck out her tongue. He then turned to the proprietress, asking, how many are arranged for entry into Arabia? There are no arrangements. There are about 100 in the royal city of Arabia, the proprietress replied. This revelation surprised Cheng Chumo. Many sisters had married merchants, with some settling in Arabia alongside them. We are not the only ones here. There are others in different countries as well, the proprietress added. Cheng Chumo fell silent, lying down to sleep. The maidservant rested on his left, while the proprietress took her place on the right. In a month, we shall reach the royal capital. We must prepare in advance. This journey will not be peaceful, Cheng Chumo remarked. Both women nodded in agreement, snuggling closer to him for warmth. Suddenly, the proprietress's face flushed, and she adjusted her position, allowing Cheng Chumo's hand to reach her. He could feel the warmth radiating from her body, while the maidservant appeared displeased. Despite the carriage's size, the limited space made it impossible to conceal their subtle movements from her. Behave yourselves. Proprietress, you must be mindful, the maidservant huffed, having long suspected the proprietress's impropriety. At that moment, the proprietress was rendered speechless, fearing that speaking might betray her desires, her body trembling involuntarily. The maidservant, feeling frustrated, sat up and grabbed a quilt, moving towards the proprietress. As she lay down, she playfully pinched the proprietress's waist, only to encounter Cheng Chumo's large hand mid-motion. Ah, the proprietress exclaimed. The maidservant's expression turned smug. Morning arrived, and the caravan continued its journey. Cheng Chumo opted not to remain in the carriage and instead rode a camel. Inside, the maidservant regarded the proprietress with disdain. The proprietress kept her head down, afraid to speak. Why so silent? You were quite talkative last night, the maidservant said fiercely. The proprietress, feeling helpless, replied cautiously, and the maidservant finally relented. A month later, the caravan entered the grand, yellow-hued royal city. It was a sizable settlement. Upon seeing the merchant convoy, Arab merchants approached to inquire about potential goods. One merchant found Cheng Chumo and asked, what do you bring? Are you trading? Cheng Chumo nodded. I have salt, he replied. The merchant's face lit up with joy. Salt was a valuable commodity in Arabia. Observing the 300 camels, the merchant laughed heartily and led Cheng Chumo to a tavern, which was merely a structure of yellow walls, crumbling in the wind. Upon entering a room, Cheng Chumo felt as if he had stepped into a sandy cave. I possess 10,000 stones of coarse salt. Can you consume that much? He inquired in Mandarin, a language commonly spoken here due to the strength of their nation. Some matters are not resolved through dispute, but rather through power. The merchant appeared somewhat embarrassed. While he could manage 10 stones, the thought of 10,000 was beyond his imagination. His demeanor shifted to one of servility. Could you sell me 10 stones? We can negotiate the price, he suggested. Cheng Chumo smiled, recognizing his advantageous position. He had no need to exert himself. The 10,000 stones of coarse salt represented his strength. I'm afraid I cannot assist you. Selling 10 stones means I must also sell to others. However, if you can find partners who can consume 10,000 stones, we can strike a deal, Cheng Chumo stated. The merchant, grateful, departed in search of partners, confident that he could find someone willing to collaborate. 3 days later, the merchant returned, accompanied by over 10 others. Cheng Chumo did not meet them. Instead, Lang Mia took charge. Upon encountering Lang Mia, the merchant explained his purpose. Lang Mia, however, was not one to engage in trade lightly. He simply stated, "The 10,000 stones of coarse salt are sold as a whole. We do not sell individually." The merchants expressed their capacity for 100 stones. But 10,000 was merely a dream, a price they could not afford. Soon, news of the 10,000 stones of coarse salt spread throughout the royal city, becoming the talk of all. The information reached the Arab court, presenting a dilemma for them. The salt, transported from the Tang dynasty, posed a challenge for how Arabia would respond. If they purchased it at a high price, Tang merchants would flood in with more supplies, attracting numerous large caravans, something Arabia desired. Yet, the dilemma was that 10,000 stones of coarse salt was not a trivial sum. Otherwise, the Arab merchants would not struggle to acquire it, prompting official involvement. "Your Holiness, I suspect this is a challenge presented to us by Chang'an," one minister remarked. The elderly pope's expression darkened. He was compelled to accept the coarse salt. A financially detrimental decision. Accepting it now meant they would be unable to consume such a vast quantity in the short term, leading to an unending influx of salt from merchants. How would Arabia cope with that? If they continued to accept it, how much could Arabia afford to spend on consumables? Conversely, refusing would yield far worse consequences, leading to a perception that Arabia lacked strength. If that sentiment spread, it would become increasingly difficult to attract merchants in the future. Who will go to meet the merchant? The Pope inquired. One minister stepped forward, expressing his willingness to try. On that day, the minister arrived at the inn where Cheng Chumo was staying. He met Lang Mia, who had already been instructed on what to say. The Tang dynasty's Chui family is well known to you Arabs. This 10,000 stones is merely the beginning. As long as you show sincerity, we will continuously supply coarse salt. Lang Mia declared. The minister carefully assessed Lang Mia, aware of the Chui family's reputation for wealth and influence. "I wonder who has come this time?" he asked, testing the waters, expecting Lang Mia to remain silent. To his surprise, Lang Mia revealed, "It is the family head, Chui Wenqing." The minister felt a jolt, lowering his posture significantly. The head of the Chui family had come to Arabia. This matter is beyond the capacity of a single minister to handle. Thus, he hastily returned to the palace to report. Upon learning that the head of the Chui family had personally arrived, the Pope became quite exhilarated. The Chui family holds far greater influence than a once-reigning emperor. Discussions commenced on how to properly receive the head of the Chui family. At an inn in the royal city, Chui Wenqing wore a wry smile on his face. He had arrived early to await Cheng Chumo, who had yet to make an appearance. He had initially planned to return soon, but was taken aback by someone impersonating him. Chui Wenqing recognized the individual immediately. No one but Cheng Chumo would dare to impersonate him. "Let us meet with His Majesty," Chui Wenqing suggested, glancing at Songzan. Songzan nodded, secretly admiring Cheng Chumo's audacity. Princess Qirun sat behind Songzan, a fleeting glimmer of surprise in her eyes. To be frank, she felt quite stifled accompanying Songzan here. Once a ruler in her own right, she now felt as insignificant as a commoner, unable to achieve anything and constrained from making an appearance. In contrast, Cheng Chumo stirred things up immediately upon entering the city. Chui Wenqing observed this with a silent heart, recognizing that the woman was intent on causing trouble. "Let us depart," he urged. Meanwhile, in a residence within the royal city, Li Ji donned a yellow embroidered dragon robe as he listened to a report from the attendants at Lijian Gate. Upon hearing the news, Li Ji furrowed his brow. What brings Chui Wenqing here? This is unexpected, he mused to himself, skeptical that a family head would venture into this territory. "Continue your investigation," he commanded. Unwilling to meet Chui Wenqing, suspecting that something was amiss. He was well aware of Chui Wenqing's character, a man who would not act without benefit, meticulous in his dealings. Renowned as the most experienced individual in the Tang dynasty, it was inconceivable that he would recklessly arrive in the Arabian Empire, at the inn where Cheng Chumo resided. The premises had been cleared, leaving only his entourage. Chui Wenqing requests an audience, Lang Mia announced. "Allow him to enter," Cheng Chumo replied with a smile. It was a clever maneuver. Soon, Chui Wenqing and two others boarded the carriage and greeted Cheng Chumo. "No need for excessive formalities outside. Please, have a seat," Cheng Chumo said as the three sat down. Princess Qirun dismounted to board another carriage, but before she could, her maid insisted on cleaning her up first. Once she was presentable, she was allowed to board. The princess had no objections and was rather pleased. After boarding, she changed into a sleeping gown and began to lament while clutching her maid's arm. "Oh dear, Sister Yin, Songzan has been so unkind. When I suggested we buy a larger carriage, he refused, fearing exposure. I've endured so much on this journey." Princess Qirun cried. The innkeeper and the maid exchanged sympathetic glances. They knew all too well the discomfort of traveling in a cramped carriage. The hardships were palpable. "How long have you been traveling?" the maid inquired. "Oh, it has been half a month. I've had to sleep in the sand every night," Princess Qirun lamented. The maid offered her comfort, while the innkeeper prepared a meal. The three women dined, relishing the food. Inside Cheng Chumo's carriage, he turned to Chui Wenqing. "The remaining matters are for you to handle. Simply express your dissatisfaction with the current policies of the Tang dynasty and your desire to establish a branch family in Arabia," Cheng Chumo instructed. Chui Wenqing responded with a wry smile, realizing that accompanying Cheng Chumo was fraught with peril. The ostensible mission was trade, yet there lay a deeper intent. Cheng Chumo aimed to use Chui Wenqing to draw out Li Ji and eliminate him. "What is my role in this?" Songzan inquired, his mindset having shifted. He understood that one could not grasp the vastness of the world by remaining confined. You shall assist Cui Wencheng, Cheng Chimo replied. The two agreed to remain there. In the afternoon, the Arabian Pope sent someone to escort Cui Wencheng to the palace for a banquet. Songzan accompanied him. Cheng Chimo smiled to himself, reflecting that Li Ji was eager for him to emerge so that he could eliminate him, having wasted too much time already. Returning to the carriage, Cheng Chimo was taken aback to find Princess Qirun still there. You should go to another carriage, he instructed. However, the princess refused to leave. The maid, out of options, had to take Princess Qirun to another carriage, leaving Cheng Chimo alone with the innkeeper. Why do you not allow her to stay here, your majesty? The innkeeper asked. As Cheng Chimo reclined, the innkeeper gently massaged his temples. I am not Cao Cao, he favors the grand. I lack no such indulgences. I would not force a minister into rebellion over a woman, Cheng Chimo replied, eyes closed. The innkeeper nodded in understanding. With the improved living conditions in the Tang dynasty, the age for daughters to marry had shifted from 12 to 16. Previously, families hurried to marry off their daughters, as each additional day meant more mouths to feed. Now, with better circumstances, delaying marriage for a few years held little consequence. Are you truly at ease with them attending the banquet? The innkeeper queried. Cheng Chimo chuckled softly but offered no reply. Why should he be concerned? Would they betray him and inform the Arabian Pope of his presence? Even if they were aware, the Arabs would feign ignorance. They were not foolish. In the palace, Cui Wencheng and Songzan walked side by side. The reception here is rather grand, Songzan remarked. Cui Wencheng smiled. This is a testament to strength. Some celebrities boast and flaunt their fans at the airport, yet the individuals welcoming me are of significant stature. No official below the 5th rank is deemed worthy of my presence. This highlights the disparity. Behind a dog, only other dogs will follow, yet behind a lion, a pride of lions shall always trail. When did society become one that mocks poverty but reveres vice? It is lamentable that the lower echelons can influence society. What are they really? Mere fodder for idle chatter. One must not elevate them too high, lest one regret it. The lower classes are not to be trifled with. The truth remains that courtesans are heartless, and actors are unprincipled, a lesson learned over millennia. He cited a typical example. Lin Ji, a master of deception, manages to play the role of president in a country not his own. One must acknowledge the foreign talent at play, whether genuine or feigned ignorance is debatable. Yet certainly, those who are not of my kin harbor differing intentions. None of them are virtuous. Upon entering the main hall, an Arabian prince emerged to greet them. After exchanging pleasantries, they stepped into the grand hall. We welcome our most esteemed guest, the head of the Cui family from the Tang dynasty, the Arabian Pope announced. Cui Wencheng clasped his fists and smiled. I have come to ascertain the sincerity of your Arabian intentions, should the conditions be favorable. I wish to establish a branch family here, Cui Wencheng stated directly. The prince smiled in agreement. The strength of the Cui family in the Tang dynasty is well known. There is no rush regarding the establishment of a branch family, he replied. Bring forth the items for the head of the Cui family to examine, the prince instructed. A large cannon was wheeled into the hall by several soldiers. Cui Wencheng remained impassive, while Songzan's expression shifted. A cannon. Cheng Chimo employed this device to render him utterly speechless. The object in question is something my family possesses in abundance, yet it holds little value, Cui Wencheng remarked. The prince felt a jolt of surprise as he scrutinized Cui Wencheng's expression. It was genuine. He internally chuckled at the realization that the cannon he had regarded as a treasure was far from rare in the Tang dynasty. How would they contend with the Tang army using such a contraption? A minister inquired. Cui Wencheng, showing disdain, glanced at Songzan without uttering a word. Songzan, in his heart, found it absurd. Was it really necessary to ponder such matters? How to respond? Simply dig tunnels. He could not voice this. For revealing a countermeasure to the enemy was out of the question. Indeed, the cannon was formidable, and I find myself at a loss, Songzan admitted. The prince wore a smug expression. Songzan held him in contempt, thinking that once they encountered the hot air balloon, they would realize that this cannon was merely a target. With nowhere to flee, a whole roasted lamb was presented at the table. Cui Wencheng's face darkened at the thought of being served such a dish. When he invited Cheng Chimo to dine, Cheng insisted on washing his hands first. Rising from his seat, Cui Wencheng expressed his lack of appetite, suggesting that they could forego the meal and thanking them for their hospitality, inviting them to seek him out should they visit the Tang dynasty. Cui Wencheng stated, clasping his fists in farewell. Songzan rose to follow. Such arrogance. Cui, what do you mean by this? Songzan queried, perplexed. Is it customary to flaunt? We can feast on roasted lamb at home, but not here, Cui Wencheng replied. It was not arrogance. He indeed possessed such strength. The Arab ministers were taken aback and later summoned numerous merchants who had traveled to the Tang dynasty for inquiries. Ultimately, they could only smile wryly. No wonder. Cui Wencheng was undoubtedly a prominent figure in the Tang dynasty and held great discernment regarding cuisine. The serving maidens numbered in the hundreds. The prince sighed. How shall we entertain them? The prince lamented. The Pope rose to leave, disinterested in the matter. Let my son delve into it. If he can procure Tang cuisine, that would be splendid. I too wish to sample it. It would be prudent to consult Tang merchants. They should possess some knowledge, the ministers suggested. The prince nodded, resigned to this course of action. 3 days later, the prince arrived at the inn to meet Cui Wencheng. bearing 6 dishes. Upon opening the food box, Chui Wenqing cast a glance, stating that the prince need not worry about his culinary preferences. Let us discuss coarse salt, Chui Wenqing proposed. The prince sighed in defeat. Was it still insufficient? We all require coarse salt. The prince replied. Chui Wenqing nodded, producing a contract written in 2 forms. The prince signed without hesitation. The transaction was complete. Where's Li Ji? Chui Wenqing inquired. The prince's expression changed. There are those who wish for Li Ji's demise, Chui Wenqing stated. The prince seemed to grasp the implications, glancing toward the carriage in the courtyard. There is no need for inquiries. If you cannot fulfill this, I will seek another prince. Chui Wenqing warned. Non-interference in domestic affairs is pure nonsense. Cheng Chumo indeed refrained from meddling, yet Chui Wenqing had taken action. It could be said that Chui Wenqing was interfering in internal matters, not the Tang dynasty. Do you think assistance comes without strings attached? Why would one starve rather than accept American aid? It is to prevent foreign interference in domestic affairs. This shipment of 10,000 stones of coarse salt is merely a courtesy from me. I demand Li Ji's head. Chui Wenqing reiterated. Please see yourselves out. Chui Wenqing added. Where there are rivalries, there will be turmoil. Where there are princes, there will be struggles for succession. This is universal. The prince rose, his expression one of deep conflict. Upon returning to the palace, he refrained from informing anyone of the events. Chui Wenqing was indeed compelling him to choose between the throne and Li Ji. While Li Ji could provide immeasurable benefits to Arabia, he could not offer the same to the prince. Chui Wenqing was different. With Chui Wenqing, he could establish a connection with the Tang dynasty and engage in dialogue. The value of the Chui family far surpassed that of a mere exiled emperor. Gritting his teeth, he called for someone. The prince commanded. A figure clad in black approached. Eliminate Li Ji. The prince instructed further, having reached a decision. That night, thousands of assassins stormed Li Ji's residence. Li Ji was taken aback by the turn of events. Fortunately, the guards of Li Jingmen displayed impressive combat prowess, driving back the attackers. Upon receiving news, Cheng Chumo retrieved his long spear. The hot air balloon ascended, soaring above Li Ji's estate. Li Ji looked on in terror at the balloon. Cheng Chumo. Li Ji stammered. A gunshot rang out, leaving a bloody hole in Li Ji's forehead. Several explosive packages were dropped, transforming Li Ji's residence into a blazing inferno. Cheng Chumo returned to the inn, within the carriage. He wiped down his weapon. The concubine's gaze was complex. What would happen when her sister learned of this? After polishing his gun, Cheng Chumo turned to the concubine. My marksmanship remains as precise as ever, Cheng Chumo proclaimed. He had contemplated this before his arrival. This shot marked the end of his ties with Empress Changsun. Chapter 346, Withdrawal. Your Highness, Chui Wenqing and Songzan seek an audience. Langmi announced. Allow them to enter. Cheng Chumo instructed. Shortly, Langmi brought the 2 men before the carriage. Their emotions were mixed. Upon witnessing the ascent of the hot air balloon, they understood that Cheng Chumo had taken matters into his own hands. They had not anticipated that he would act personally. The best resolution would have been to orchestrate Li Ji's demise by the hands of the Arab prince, providing Cheng Chumo with a satisfactory explanation regarding the harem. Your Majesty, why take such measures? Chui Wenqing inquired. Cheng Chumo, with hands clasped behind his back, gazed into the distance. He had to do this. He wished to convey to the world that those who dare betray their nation must face death, and no pleas for mercy would be entertained. A nation is a nation. A family is a family. Li Ji's treachery warranted his demise, and my act of killing him serves as a warning to all, Cheng Chumo declared. Chui Wenqing sighed inwardly. Cheng Chumo remained resolute in his convictions. Tomorrow, I shall depart. This matter is in your hands. I trust you know how to proceed without my guidance. Cheng Chumo stated. Songzan was at a loss for words, pondering what actions to take. Was it not akin to Cheng Chumo seizing Daiyue City? The following day, Cheng Chumo departed silently. Within the palace, the Pope stood at the highest vantage point, observing the departing convoy. How audacious, he mused in admiration. Alas, he sighed in resignation. News from the front lines had just arrived, devastating defeat, with 100,000 troops captured, 25,000 remaining, and the rest perishing in battle. This revelation struck like a bolt from the blue, extinguishing the Pope's ambitions. Had the war against the Great Stone Kingdom been victorious, Arabia might have had the courage to contest the Tang dynasty. Instead, the outcome was contrary. Following this battle, Arabia would be compelled to concede. This was an unspoken truth. Father, the prince approached. The Pope turned to face him, his gaze laden with complexity. You acted rightly. You made no error, the Pope affirmed. The war is lost. There is no need to offend the Tang dynasty over a single Li Ji. The prince was taken aback, having prepared himself for punishment, not expecting this response. Shouldn't he, father, be angry? After all, Li Ji has not yet been completely drained. His value remains significant. There was nothing useful discovered in Li Ji's possessions. The prince remarked. The Pope turned and continued to gaze at the departing convoy. It would be of no consequence. Even if something valuable was found, it would still need to be sent to the Tang dynasty. No matter, let us converse with the head of the Chui family. You shall be sent as an envoy to the Tang, the Pope suggested. The prince, perplexed, could not fathom why his father would send him to the Tang. After taking his leave, he sought out Chui Wenqing and Songzan to express his desire to be dispatched to the Tang. Chui Wenqing's expression remained unchanged. while Song Zan felt a complex mix of emotions, realizing that the prince was unaware of his precarious situation. Song Zan had previously served as an envoy to the Tang, and, at that time, he too had not grasped the underlying reasons. Upon his return, he understood the arduous journey he had undertaken to reclaim his throne. That was not merely an envoy's mission. It was akin to being a hostage. The Tang had allowed him to return under the promise of marrying a princess, intending to have him contest for the throne. Now, history seemed to be repeating itself. Your father is not treating you well, is he? Cui Wencheng remarked. In that instant, the prince comprehended his father's true intentions behind sending him to the Tang. Outside the center of power, his brothers would seize the opportunity to rise. This revealed that he was no longer the favored heir. A bitter smile crossed his face. I should have anticipated this when I took action against Li Ji, the prince lamented, feeling a pang of bitterness in his heart. Recognizing that Li Ji was of no use to him, yet invaluable to the entire Arab realm, his current actions could no longer garner respect. Cui Wencheng placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. Indeed, our Cui family has always been staunch supporters of the emperor. Now that our family has risen, we shall establish a branch here and support you wholeheartedly, Cui Wencheng declared. The prince cast a grateful glance at Cui Wencheng, a fierce determination igniting within him. If his brothers were sensible, he would allow them to live. If not, he would ensure their demise. With the support of the Tang's Cui family, he felt confident in maintaining his status as prince. That day, the Cui family left a few members behind. Cui Wencheng, Song Zan, and the prince departed the royal city to pursue Cheng Chumo's convoy. 3 months later, Cheng Chumo arrived at a vast lake, not far from the territory of the Great Stone Kingdom. The name Great Stone Kingdom had been rendered obsolete. It had become a prefecture of the Tang dynasty. The governor of Shizhou was the lord of the border city. By the lakeside, Cheng Chumo stood with his hands clasped behind him, gazing at the tranquil surface of the water. The three from the Cui family stood 3 steps behind him. The Arab prince stared blankly at Cheng Chumo's silhouette, realizing he was the emperor of the Tang, the most powerful man in the world. The head of the Cui family appeared humble before him, devoid of the former pride and demanding demeanor. This place is quite suitable. Let us establish an inn, a large one, Cheng Chumo proposed. Song Zan quickly agreed. Cui Wencheng's expression soured. The young man had learned to be shrewd, recognizing that the emperor's intention was not merely to construct an inn. What was needed here was a city. Song Zan's eagerness seemed to imply he desired to monopolize the venture. His face flushed red. Cui brother, please allow me to take this on. You know how impoverished I am. The Song family may be considered a noble lineage, yet our strength pales in comparison to the great clans of the homeland, Song Zan pleaded. He felt compelled to compete. Cheng Chumo had elevated his family to noble status, but their actual strength meant little. They lacked resources and manpower. This inn would eventually serve as a hub, ensuring profitability. The prince's lips twitched. This land appeared to be under Arab jurisdiction. Was it truly wise for them to proceed in such a manner? None of the three acknowledged his concerns. Should the Tang suffer defeat in the conflict with the Great Stone Kingdom, the Arabs would undoubtedly pursue similar actions. The vanquished had no right to protest. Do not harbor such ambitions. This inn cannot be monopolized by your family alone. I advise you against greed, Cui Wencheng cautioned, his gaze laden with meaning. Song Zan understood the implications. This opportunity was not meant for his family alone, nor could it be consumed solely by the Cui family and him. Many noble families in the Tang would not tolerate such monopolization. The Cui family, however, was indifferent. Even if dissatisfied, those noble families would not take action against them. Song Zan, however, was different. In the eyes of those noble families, he was inconsequential. They had 100 ways to deal with him. Do not argue. This is a matter of national trade, not something that can be resolved by just a couple of families. 30% will go to the national treasury, and the remainder will be shared among those who participate in its construction. Now go forth, Cheng Chumo commanded. 3 days later, they took their leave. Song Zan was elated, finally becoming involved in a significant endeavor. It was immensely challenging to be accepted into the ranks of the noble families. Without a common language, meaningful dialogue was impossible. That was the true essence of their disregard. After the trio departed, Cheng Chumo continued to gaze at the lake. On the return journey, Cheng Chumo moved slowly, for reasons that required no elaboration. In this world, perfection was a rare occurrence. With a sigh, he returned to his carriage. Shortly after, the convoy resumed its journey. Half a month later, they arrived at the Great Stone Kingdom. Shui Ringue awaited Cheng Chumo at the city gates. This humble one pays respects to your majesty, Shui Ringue declared. Cheng Chumo nodded slightly, acknowledging the commendable efforts. Well done, Cheng Chumo remarked. If your majesty permits, I would like to continue the campaign, Shui Ringue added, eager to garner further military achievements. I have heard you have over 20,000 prisoners of war. Hand them over, Cheng Chumo instructed, gesturing towards the Arab prince. Everyone understood the implications. This was a means to help the prince cultivate his power. Those captives saved by the prince would surely remain loyal to him in the future. These 20,000 individuals would serve as the foundation for the prince. The prince bowed deeply in gratitude. Cheng Chumo entered the city but did not linger. The convoy set off again that same day. Chapter 347. The Heart's Burden of Empress Changsun Gansu, a lakeside villa. The atmosphere was profoundly oppressive. Empress Changsun stood in a pavilion, her eyes swollen and red. Koi fish leaped continuously from the water. Ji Nu, why have you betrayed the Tang? Do you not realize he promised to restore the Tang to Li? Why must you sever all ties? Empress Changsun spoke to herself. The women observed her from a distance. The calmest among them was Li Lizzie. The more one knew, the colder their heart became. Li Lizzie witnessed Cheng Chumo's trials and felt the pain deeply. During his solitary confinement in his fief, Li Ji had never once visited him. The benevolence and righteousness spoken of by Li Ji were mere facades. He was but a skilled actor, lacking true substance. He claimed he would not kill those royal princes, yet he was the one who executed the most. Those princesses and princes, fully aware that their rebellion would end in failure, still chose to revolt. Would they have done so if there were other alternatives? No, they would not. How deeply Li Ji had lost the hearts of the people. Had he possessed their support, Wu Zetian could never have ascended to the throne. He was truly the worst emperor in the world. Now, all the deaths were of his own making. No one else could be blamed, only himself for his self-destructive actions. He believed that once Cheng Chumo reached Arabia, he would be powerless against him. Yet, what was the reality? Cheng Chumo had traveled thousands of miles to eliminate him. He had already undermined the very foundation of the Tang. If Arabia had not possessed cannons, Cheng Chumo would have already planned for the generals to lead an expedition. But due to the cannons, he was forced to relent. The risk was too great. Empress Changsun stepped out of the pavilion and approached Li Lizzie, reaching out to caress her face. Mother is leaving now, Empress Changsun stated. Li Lizzie gazed intently at Empress Changsun's face, where the passage of time had undeniably etched its marks. The lines around her eyes hinted at a furrowed brow, and though she yearned to speak, words remained unvoiced. She wished to convey to the Empress that, if the roles were reversed, she too would have eliminated Li Ji without a moment's hesitation. Let Chiron accompany you, Li Lizzie proposed. Empress Changsun's gaze drifted towards Chiron, who was frolicking in the distance, riding atop a giant panda, flanked by a bear in front and a tiger behind. A profound sense of reluctance filled Empress Changsun's heart, for Chiron was her longest companion and the child she cared for most deeply. Mother, you find it difficult to part with her, do you not? Are you punishing the prince consort for Li Ji's transgressions? Li Lizzie inquired, observing the Empress's momentary surprise. If I were Cheng Chumo, I too would dispose of Li Ji. He undermines the very foundation of our civilization, and he deserves his fate, she continued. While Empress Changsun understood this rationale, she remained ensnared in her emotional turmoil. The women surrounding her insisted on waiting for Cheng Chumo's return before making any decisions. A month later, Cheng Chumo arrived at the lakeside villa, and the women departed, leaving only Empress Changsun and him within the villa's walls. The Empress scrutinized Cheng Chumo's eyes, eager to hear his thoughts. If I do not take his life, others will emulate him, believing they are shielded by your protection. Once he is gone, no one will dare to act with such ambition again, including Li Tai, Cheng Chumo asserted. Without waiting for Empress Changsun's response, he enveloped her in an embrace. Those who err must bear the consequences. Li Ji's sins are unforgivable, he declared. Overwhelmed, Empress Changsun burst into tears, releasing the weight she had long suppressed. Cheng Chumo gently patted her back. Let us take a walk to clear our minds, he suggested. The women, however, insisted she stay, believing that time would be the best healer. After a prolonged weeping session, Empress Changsun finally spoke. Will you accompany me for a stroll? Cheng Chumo was taken aback, puzzled by her request. What is the meaning of this? He asked, to which she shot him a knowing glance. I have long anticipated Li Ji's demise. Though I did not foresee it occurring outside, she confessed. She had understood everything when Li Lizzie dispatched assassins after Li Ji upon capturing Li Daozong. If you choose not to accompany me, so be it, she added, her words lacking sincerity. Where do you wish to go? Cheng Chumo inquired. Empress Changsun smiled mysteriously and remained silent. 3 days later, the luxurious carriage, which had been idle for some time, set forth. The women stood outside the villa, fuming as they watched the carriage depart. How absurd. Such a grand carriage for just the two of them. One concubine grumbled, echoing the sentiments of the others, who were equally displeased by the unusual sight. Inside the carriage, Empress Changsun's worries seemed to dissipate. I am merely a woman. I cannot enact righteous vengeance upon my kin. However, I am aware of what righteousness entails. The moment Li Ji brought me back to the palace, I foresaw his fate, she reflected. Although she had anticipated his death, accepting the reality as a mother proved to be an arduous endeavor. Just as Li Lizzie had questioned, will you punish the prince consort for Li Ji's sins? Cheng Chumo chose not to respond, realizing that any comment would be ill-timed. The best course of action was to feign ignorance. Empress Changsun shot a glare at Cheng Chumo, who was pretending to be oblivious. She drew aside the curtain to observe the world outside, where construction was underway and iron tracks were being laid. Is this what you call a train? She inquired. Cheng Chumo nodded. With it, the Tang dynasty can transport soldiers to the front lines within a month and supplies within half that time, he explained. Empress Changsun listened intently. Her curiosity piqued. She was eager to experience this marvel of engineering. As the carriage reached Shangxi, Cheng Chumo, perplexed, asked, Are we returning to Chang'an? Empress Changsun smiled enigmatically. 3 days later, the carriage arrived at a lofty mountain adorned with numerous jujube trees, their fruits littering the ground. A multitude of onlookers admired the scenery, yet none dared to sample the jujubes. Do you know who Master Longue is? Are you aware of the fate of the 400,000 border soldiers of the Qin? Empress Changsun queried, her true intention being to seek amusement and intrigue. Cheng Chumo realized they had arrived at the tomb of the first emperor. Why is no one eating the jujubes? Because they are poisonous, he replied, knowing the tomb was filled with mercury. Let us not disturb him, he added, not wishing to meddle with the burial site. Empress Changsun pointed outside, where Long Gui, the old man on a cow, and Sun Simiao were strolling. Upon noticing the carriage, they approached. Cheng Chumo dismounted. You are here as well, Long Gui remarked, greeting him with a smile. Master, what brings you here? Cheng Chumo asked. Long Gui chuckled and tossed Cheng Chumo a knife coin. This is the currency used by my ancestors, he explained. My ancestors employed the same, Cheng Chumo replied. To which Long Gui paused in surprise. Sun Simiao nodded in agreement, while the old man on the cow laughed heartily. Indeed, whose ancestors have not used such currency? Old Gui. Why dwell on it? Who among us lacks such heritage? He jested. Long Gui, now persuaded by his disciples' words, sighed. I merely wish for the descendants of the 500,000 border soldiers to return. They too are Tang people, he said, looking earnestly at Cheng Chumo. Ah, that is easily accomplished. Let us journey to Lingnan, Cheng Chumo proposed. And the others nodded in agreement. Cheng Chumo's mind raced with the thought that the third gate might be located in Lingnan, as numerous individuals had been dispatched there during Emperor Li Shimin's reign. Long Gui's expression softened with satisfaction. Since the Han Dynasty, border soldiers have been marginalized. A few were integrated, while the majority chose to flee. They conquered many territories, yet historical records scarcely mention them, deeming them illegitimate. If guardians of the realm are not considered legitimate, then who is? He pondered. Those like Liu Bang and Xiang Yu reap the benefits. The first emperor decreed that border soldiers guard the frontier and were never to return to the capital. Because of this edict, the 500,000 border soldiers witnessed the fall of the Qin dynasty. The most formidable army remained at the borders, and their return would render Liu Bang and Xiang Yu inconsequential. Let us return to the capital first. There is no rush, the first emperor had once stated. Cheng Chumo nodded, feeling that after being away for over a year, it was time to return and assess the situation. Long Gui cast one last glance at the sprawling jujube trees before departing. 10 days later, Cheng Chumo returned to the palace. But Empress Changsun did not accompany him. The palace was not her domain. The young girl stood at the palace gates, her head bowed in deference, hesitant to meet his gaze, unaware of how Cheng Chumo had resolved the matters concerning the Green Robe Gate. Cheng Chumo's expression was grave as he dismounted. The esteemed leader of the Qingyi sect has come to receive me? I am somewhat taken aback, remarked Cheng Chumo. The child, Cixi, was on the verge of tears, her red eyes furtively glancing at Cheng Chumo. She hurriedly lowered her head, contemplating how to explain herself. Wu Zetian approached, aware that Cixi was merely pretending, yet she chose not to expose her. Your servant pays homage to your majesty, Wu Zetian stated. She was already privy to Li Ji's fate, secretly feeling satisfied. After exchanging a few pleasantries, they all returned to the Ganlu Hall. Cheng Chumo knelt at the desk, while Cixi served him tea and water. Cheng Chumo remained silent. Still pretending. I still prefer your former self. Do regain that essence, he suggested. Cixi lifted her head, her eyes reddened as tears brimmed, conveying her profound sense of grievance. Cheng Chumo's heart softened. I have not blamed you. Moreover, the Qingyi sect has not committed any wrongs against me, he reassured her. Only then did Cixi brighten. Sitting beside Cheng Chumo, wrapping her arms around him and beginning to inquire with warmth. Did you miss me, your majesty? Where shall we go next? Will you take me along? My Qingyi sect is quite formidable, she chirped. Cheng Chumo smiled, choosing silence. This lively Cixi was indeed entertaining. Cixi, did you not learn to prepare a dish? Hurry and make it, Wu Zetian urged. Cixi sprang to her feet. You all continue your conversation. I will prepare a meal for you, she declared. This was meant as a gesture of atonement for Cheng Chumo, who turned out to be quite easy to appease. After Cixi departed, Wu Zetian settled beside Cheng Chumo, weariness evident in her eyes, casting a reproachful glance at him. Your Majesty, you seem to have all the leisure in the world. Could you not leave everything to your humble servant? Wu Zetian remarked. Cheng Chumo sipped his tea, refraining from responding. Despite Wu Zetian's words, should she truly be like Cixi, she would surely go mad. Power, once obtained, can be addictive. Without it, Wu Zetian would prefer death. Why do you not answer me, your majesty? Wu Zetian inquired, her gaze fixed on him, her hands clasped tightly within her sleeves. Cheng Chumo found amusement in her fear of losing power. Setting down his teacup, he replied, I am preoccupied and unwilling. You remain here, for this place suits you. Wu Zetian's heart leapt with joy, though her expression feigned displeasure as she retrieved a memorial from the desk. This year, the ministers have exceeded their tasks. They are currently constructing branch railways, she reported. Cheng Chumo glanced at the document. He replied nonchalantly. Wu Zetian produced another memorial. Surrounding nations wish to pay tribute once more, she stated. Cheng Chumo did not even glance at it. There is no need, he replied. How could we fight after their visit? Wu Zetian had anticipated Cheng Chumo's response. How could a war enthusiast possibly halt his pursuits? The two engaged in a casual exchange. And after some time, Wu Zetian commenced reviewing the memorials, which seemed endless. Take suitable breaks. Do not wear yourself out, Cheng Chumo advised. Wu Zetian smiled faintly. I cannot betray your majesty's trust, she asserted. Accompany me for a stroll, Cheng Chumo suggested, rising. Wu Zetian set aside her memorials, and as Cheng Chumo extended his hand, she placed hers atop it. Together, they left the grand hall and entered the imperial garden. With Li Ji deceased, the Tang dynasty had been renamed Zhou. Cheng Chumo observed Wu Zetian, who stood frozen in shock, pondering how he knew her innermost thoughts. Your Majesty, you. Wu Zetian stammered. She had longed to change the name of the Tang dynasty to Zhou. Cheng Chumo gazed into her eyes, internally delighted. Is that truly so shocking? Is this name not good? He queried. Wu Zetian, caught between laughter and tears, squatted on the ground, hugging her knees. Wu, I like it, Wu, she exclaimed. It was the first time Cheng Chumo witnessed Wu Zetian cry. She had always given off an air of being unyielding. She possessed emotions, yet they were merely surface level. One could describe her in 2 words, ruthless. Cheng Chumo sat opposite her. I can foresee events thousands of years into the future. Do you believe me? He inquired. Expecting Wu Zetian to be astonished, he was met with no such reaction. Her glistening eyes remained fixed on him. What if I told you my master has revealed all to me? Would you believe that? Wu Zetian asked. Cheng Chumo was momentarily taken aback. Reflecting on it, there was nothing surprising about it. Yuan Tiangang was indeed a remarkable figure, capable of foreseeing the extraordinary. My master mentioned you feel out of place in the Tang dynasty. He said you are not a local, Wu Zetian continued. Giggling, Wu Zetian could not contain her laughter, while Cheng Chumo's expression darkened. How dare Yuan Tiangang disparage him? Summon Yuan Tiangang to the palace, Cheng Chumo commanded. Soon, Yuan Tiangang arrived in the garden. Wu Zetian lowered her head, unable to face him. She had just been manipulated by Cheng Chumo, betraying her master. How goes the research? Cheng Chumo inquired. Yuan Tiangang looked towards Wu Zetian, who was staring at her small feet, nervously shifting on the ground. Master, do not look at me. I know nothing, she whispered. Yuan Tiangang internally despaired. The aristocrats had already developed an aircraft, and you are to be responsible for its test flight, Cheng Chumo instructed. Yuan Tiangong's eyes widened in disbelief. Test flight? That contraption is merely a few wooden beams covered with black cloth. It can indeed fly. During the research, 300 people broke their legs, and 100 lost their lives. To experiment with it is akin to seeking death. That device was merely a ruse devised by the aristocrats to deceive Cheng Chumo. Cheng Chumo did not afford him the chance to refuse. Prepare the aircraft. It shall be ready for testing in half an hour, he declared. On the city tower, Yuan Tiangang was bound to a triangular frame as craftsmen examined the black cloth atop it. One craftsman wielded a wind vane to test the wind direction and adjusted the framework accordingly. Approaching Cheng Chumo, he bowed and announced, Your Majesty, we are ready for takeoff. Cheng Chumo turned to Yuan Tiangang. Yuan Tiangong's expression remained unchanged. His eyes were closed as fear gripped him. Chapter 349. Yuan Tiangang takes flight. Yuan Tiangang. Do you have anything else to say? Cheng Chumo inquired. Yuan Tiangang opened his eyes, gazing at Cheng Chumo with a complex expression. Cheng Chumo smiled, moving toward the aircraft to inspect it. He summoned the craftsman to rectify any unreasonable aspects and ran his hand along the cloth. Let it fly, he commanded. With a resounding bang, the aircraft was propelled into the air. Yuan Tiangong's features contorted, his body trembling. After a brief flight, Yuan Tiangang opened his eyes to gaze down upon the earth. The common folk began to point, with the elderly kneeling in reverence towards the sky. An increasing number of individuals kneel in reverence. Yuan Tiangang ascends to immortality. Cheng Chumo stands atop the city tower, laughing heartily. For this is the consequence of speaking too freely. After a while, Yuan Tiangang is brought back, his head bandaged in white cloth. Wu Zetian gazes at him with a heart full of compassion. Alas, master, it is I who have caused you this harm, she laments tearfully. Yuan Tiangang, with a bitter smile, comprehends a crucial truth. Flying is not inherently difficult. The aircraft is quite safe. It was merely a flaw in its landing that caused his head to strike the ground first. Cheng Chumo, hands behind his back, approaches Yuan Tiangang. Mingyang has devised a generator and electric lights. I entrust you with a task. Use the generator to enable the aircraft to soar through the skies. And I shall allocate a budget of 100 million, he declares. Yuan Tiangang' complexion flushes crimson, realizing that Cheng Chumo intends to extract his final worth. Immortality suits you well. Fly, for I have faith in you, Cheng Chumo continues. Yuan Tiangang rises suddenly, glaring at Cheng Chumo. Your Majesty, do you not think this is excessive? He retorts vehemently. Cheng Chumo counters, it is not unfair. Why should those old codgers receive respect while I am denied it? Cheng Chumo, at a loss for words, wonders why Yuan Tiangang is so agitated. I do not bully people. Do they not call you a living immortal? I am merely challenging the immortals, he responds. Yuan Tiangong's lips twitch in frustration. Those 3 scoundrels are not any younger than I. Why does Cheng Chumo not confront them? He inquires. You know far too much, Cheng Chumo replies before turning away, hands behind his back. Yuan Tiangang follows suit, while Wu Zetian hastily gathers her skirts and departs. Wishing to dissociate from the matter, Cheng Chumo and Yuan Tiangang arrive at a pond. Observing the various fish, Cheng Chumo squats down to stir the water. Do you know what contribution these fish make to the world? He asks. Yuan Tiangang contemplates before mimicking Cheng Chumo's action. No contribution, he replies, retracting his hand. He brings it to his nose and sniffs. Fishy. And what of humans? Cheng Chumo probes. Yuan Tiangang contemplates again, wanting to respond, but closing his mouth instead. The contribution of a species is merely that, a contribution detached from the world. Humans, like fish, believe they contribute to existence. Without fish, would the world hold any significance? Cheng Chumo elaborates. The world is one of competition, where myriad races coexist. Without striving, one risks being eliminated, and lagging behind invites punishment. The common people refer to you as a living immortal, and you must engage in the deeds befitting an immortal, with all contributions directed towards military endeavors, Cheng Chumo states. Yuan Tiangang understands. Cheng Chumo's ambition is vast. You claim, I am not a local. Do you know that the land of Huaxia is lacking in outsiders? Do you understand what it means that a foreign monk can chant scriptures? He continues. Cheng Chumo gestures toward the sky, leaving the rest unsaid, allowing Yuan Tiangang to ponder. He does not presume his words to be infallible. Humans are inherently biased. One cannot simply listen to a singular perspective. Fairness and justice reside within each individual's heart. Yuan Tiangang bows in respect, and Cheng Chumo returns the gesture with a deep bow. These matters you may delegate to your disciples, in a few days. Accompany me to the seaside, Cheng Chumo instructs. Yuan Tiangang nods silently and departs. Cheng Chumo arrives at the Ganlu Palace, where the rogue Zhang San awaits. Upon seeing Cheng Chumo, he bows respectfully, his face haggard. There is a matter I find perplexing, Zhang San states. Cheng Chumo gestures for him to sit. There exists a tradition among the officials of the Tang dynasty. For the greater good, family members are not allowed to participate in major cases. As if the matter does not concern them, Zhang San explains. Cheng Chumo chuckles softly. Who remains composed when a family crisis arises? In such times, one's mindset becomes extreme, he responds. The law indeed considers this aspect. Regardless of one's family background, when a situation arises, whether one wishes it or not, until the investigation concludes, the family remains oblivious. Politely, it is for their protection. Harshly, it is to leave a path for the law. Humans can err, but the law must not. The law embodies the voice of a nation. Should it lose credibility, disaster follows. This is Zhang San's concern. Cheng Chumo continues. On one side stands the nation, on the other, the people. Human-centeredness dictates that private matters should be resolved by the populace, and families have the right to know. Zhang San rises and bows, understanding what he must do henceforth. Would you care to accompany me on an outing? Cheng Chumo inquires. Zhang San's interest is piqued. To witness the suffering of the world is essential for revising the law, Cheng Chumo asserts, to which Zhang San agrees. 3 days later, Cheng Chumo departs discreetly. Zizi, ever astute, senses Cheng Chumo's departure and heads directly to Fufeng County to find Empress Changsun, clinging to her side. Cheng Chumo arrives at Fufeng County, accompanied by 300 Special Forces soldiers. Their mission completed, they have returned, having been dismissed by Wang Xuanzi, who could not manage these veterans. After training the Special Forces, they developed a peculiar trait. They could only count to 9 and would check their ears after combat. This fault is inconsequential. The most infuriating part is their pride in their mistakes, claiming Cheng Chumo taught them. No one intervenes, and Wang Xuanzi cannot handle these formidable individuals, sending them back to avoid further training that might render the new recruits useless. Cheng Chumo surveys the 300 soldiers, who are filled with excitement at finally returning to his side. These men are now in their 30s or 40s, and Cheng Chumo wishes to find them a peaceful role. Yet they are unable to perform any task. This reflects the harsh realities faced by retired soldiers. Though they do not live poorly, it is better for them to accompany Cheng Chumo rather than languish in idleness. Rejoin the ranks, Cheng Chumo commands. The soldiers erupt in jubilation, finally back in service. Cheng Chumo smiles, recalling the days when they fought through the West Turkic lands. They may be older, but they are not diminished. Their physical strength may have waned slightly, yet their combat prowess remains intact. Your Majesty, Zizi approaches, hiding behind Empress Changsun. Cheng Chumo is at a loss for words. Let us embark, he instructs. The procession soon advances. Yuan Tiangang and Zhang San share a carriage. Zhang San appears displeased. Your Majesty, this extravagance is excessive, he remarks, eyeing Cheng Chumo's grand carriage. Yuan Tiangang nods in agreement, acknowledging the carriage's size. Why not impeach the emperor? He suggests. Zhang San's lips twitch. He dares not. Chapter 350, Lingnan Road. Yuan Tiangang finds amusement in the situation. Even the rogue Zhang San has his reservations. Observing Yuan Tiangang's demeanor, Zhang San surmises his thoughts. I truly hesitate to trouble His Majesty, for without him, my thoughts remain mere musings. With him, they can manifest into reality. The outlaw proclaimed. Taoists neither engage in agriculture nor commerce, yet monks can still assist His Majesty in generating wealth. What of the Taoist sect? I ought to draft a law specifically for Taoists, mandating that those who cultivate the Tao must pay taxes. Yuan Tiangang was taken aback, a bitter smile crossing his face. Indeed, one cannot afford to provoke such a figure. It is no wonder that so many noble families in the Tang dynasty do not oppose the laws revised by the outlaw. The law can indeed be tailored to fit. If you are able to locate those Taoists, then go forth and collect taxes, Yuan Tiangang suggested. This time, it was the outlaw who found himself stunned. Taoists typically lead reclusive lives, most hidden away in the depths of the mountains. From the front, the sound of singing echoed from the carriage. Yuan Tiangang shook his head as he listened, recalling the times he had heard his disciple Wu Zetian sing. This was his first encounter with the voice of Cici, which exuded a sense of unrestrained freedom. Yuan Tiangang remarked, while Wu Zetian's songs resonate with concerns for the nation and its people, Cici's is the stark opposite. A single song, Silence is Golden, conveys two distinct sentiments. Is it the song that differs? As they approached Lingnan Dao, a region abundant in mountains, waters, and venomous creatures, it was the birthplace of poisonous goo. The governor of Lingnan Dao was Du Ruhui's eldest son, Du Go, who held the title of Prince of Kai. Just as they entered Lingnan Dao, within the carriage, Cici ceased her song and gazed nervously outside. Cheng Chumo noticed her, sensing she must know something. He recalled a certain individual, Li Lixian, whom he had once drunkenly shared wine with. Where is Xiener? Cheng Chumo inquired. Empress Changsun shook her head. That child has never been one for words. Her mind is quite heavy. After staying in Gansu for a few days, she left under some pretense. Where she went, I do not know. Cheng Chumo turned to Cici, whose eyes darted away. She controlled the Qingyi sect, and Li Lixian's whereabouts could not elude him. Speak, or I shall send you back, Cheng Chumo threatened. With no options left, Cici reluctantly confessed, after entering Lingnan, my sister disappeared. Cheng Chumo frowned, delving into his memories of Li Lixian's history. Among her many sisters, she was the longest lived. Due to the poisonous goo, she had faced censure from ministers. Yet Emperor Li Ji had staunchly defended her, allowing her and her husband, Shuiguan, to leave Chang'an without punishment. They had 3 sons, all granted titles. This was not in line with Li Ji's character. Could he truly have let Li Lixian off? Perhaps. Yet even if he did, it was implausible that her husband would emerge unscathed. Li Lixian must possess some means of self-preservation that prevented Li Ji from acting against her. Why had she come to Lingnan? What secrets lay hidden here? Cheng Chumo pondered, unable to comprehend. Was it merely the goo poison? His encounters with Li Lixian had shown her to be anything but sinister. Cheng Chumo exited the carriage and approached Yuan Tiangang's. What do you know of Li Lixian? He asked. Yuan Tiangang scrutinized Cheng Chumo with intensity. Do you genuinely believe that all women would relinquish their hatred for the sake of love? You are the sworn enemy of the Li family. Cici does not care because she never did. Li Lizzie is indifferent because she sees clearly. Do you expect Li Lixian to be unconcerned? You are beautiful, but do not let your thoughts run too fanciful. Yuan Tiangang remarked, inwardly amused, finding satisfaction in his words. This young man also had his own desires. Cheng Chumo furrowed his brow, recognizing the truth in Yuan Tiangang's words. He had been somewhat naive. What reason did Li Lixian have to forego vengeance? What would compel her to relinquish the Li Tang dynasty? Did he truly believe that simply calling her sister-in-law could erase all past grievances? She was not Li Lizzie, and she had no past with Cheng Chumo. She was not Cici, raised by Wu Zetian, whose heart was broader than a watermelon. Du Go arrived to receive the carriage. Special forces, he announced. Du Go, the gambler. Cheng Chumo muttered. Let him return. I have matters to attend to, he instructed. The special forces complied. Yuan Tiangang watched Cheng Chumo with a smile. Does His Majesty also harbor fears? He teased. Cheng Chumo dared not accompany Du Go to the Lingnan Dao government office, paying little heed to Yuan Tiangang's words. He would not underestimate the son of Du Ruhui, the architect of the Xuanwu Gate incident. The name Du Go compelled caution from Cheng Chumo. A gambler is the most formidable adversary. Even a slight chance incites them to wager everything. His father orchestrated the Xuanwu Gate coup, and his brother dared to rebel alongside Li Chengqian. This is the nature of the Du family. Du Ruhui had revealed to the world that he was a gambler, dauntless and cunning. It was no wonder he met an early demise. How could Li Shimin rest easy with such a man alive? The special forces approached Du Go. The sovereign is unavailable. Return whence you came, they stated. Du Go smiled and, after bowing, departed with civil and military officials. Cheng Chumo opened the curtain. Watching Du Go from a distance. Order the new army to enter Lingnan Dao and stand by, he commanded. The special forces acknowledged the order. The outlaw hesitated, aware of Cheng Chumo's intentions. The new army's commander was Han Tu, known for his ruthless disposition. Is His Majesty preparing for civil war? Yuan Tiangang inquired. This is not civil war. This is a purge. The Tang dynasty is currently in a phase of ascendance. It cannot be interrupted by anyone. Whoever dares to disrupt our rise shall face dire consequences, Cheng Chumo replied coldly. The 6 doors are currently Cheng Chumo's greatest adversary, which is also why he refrained from deploying troops against the Arab Empire. He was certain that if he launched an expedition against the 6 doors, they would surely retaliate. In that case, there would be no time for withdrawal, let alone an expedition. The decline of the Tang began with the Ungshi Rebellion. Why did it occur? Because the Tang forces were stationed at the borders, preparing for expansion. To repel external threats, one must first secure internal stability. Cheng Chumo would not grant anyone an opportunity. In the Lingnan Dao government office, a veiled woman occupied the main seat, with Du Go standing to her left. I initially intended to lure Cheng Chumo to the government office and exert all my efforts to eliminate him, yet he did not arrive. This is uncharacteristic of him, Du Go remarked. Upon mentioning Cheng Chumo, The woman's expression soured. Reflecting on it now is quite nauseating. Focus on your tasks. How many of us do we have? She queried. 150,000, Du Go responded. Who would have thought that Ling Nin concealed such a formidable force? The woman nodded, producing a small green snake from her sleeve. Du Go's complexion shifted, and he dared not move. Those individuals are criminals. Can they be counted on for loyalty? She asked. Du Go hesitated to answer. Could he truly rely on the descendants of wrongdoers? The woman toyed with the snake and smiled. Your inquiry was somewhat unnecessary. Who will accompany us this time? She inquired. The mention of this matter further darkened the woman's expression. Cheng Chimo not only sought to seize the Li Tang dynasty, but also aimed to dominate all the women of the Li family. Princess Jinyang, Li Mingda, Du Go mentioned. You may leave, the woman commanded. Du Go exited, and beneath her veil, her delicate face was filled with anger. Uncertain of Li Mingda's intentions, she followed Cheng Chimo. Cheng Chimo, I shall not forgive you for usurping my mother and sisters, the woman murmured. Chapter 351. Is Li Lixian controlling Lingnan? At that moment, Cheng Chimo remained oblivious to the fact that Lingnan Dao had been entirely seized, and that a formidable army of 150,000 lay hidden within. He had just arrived at a small town when a few officers unexpectedly halted him. Your cart is overloaded. It will be confiscated, one officer declared. The Special Forces soldiers regarded the officer with incredulity. It had been years since anyone had dared to cause trouble. Draw your swords and eliminate him, one soldier suggested. Hold on, a rogue interjected. This cart is indeed overloaded. The officer speaks truthfully. Yuan Tiangang, who had accompanied Cheng Chimo, turned his head away, regretting the decision to bring a rogue along. Cheng Chimo observed the officers with keen interest. He could not help but note their ineptitude, akin to pigs wearing straw hats, utterly lacking in discernment. A smaller four-wheeled cart approached, prompting the officers to abandon their confrontation with Cheng Chimo to intercept the smaller vehicle, which appeared easier to intimidate. Dismount. Your cart is overloaded and cannot enter the city. It will be confiscated, the officers ordered. The driver attempted to protest but was dragged from the cart and beaten mercilessly. You bully. A woman's voice cried from within the cart. Cheng Chimo furrowed his brow. That voice sounded familiar. A woman emerged from the cart, none other than Li Lixian. Blushing with anger, Li Lixian glared at the officers, who were momentarily taken aback by her beauty. These are not officers. They are bandits, Yuan Tiangang remarked. Cheng Chimo nodded, recognizing the lowly tactics employed. He was curious to see how the situation would unfold as the officers began to lay hands on Li Lixian. Cheng Chimo remained expressionless in the cart, while Zizi dismounted angrily and marched towards the officers. Strike them, Zizi commanded. The members of the Tianxia Society sprang into action, and several officers lay on the ground, howling in pain. Li Lixian rushed into Li Mingda's embrace, weeping profusely. Zizi comforted her sister, casting a fierce glare at Cheng Chimo's cart. Why do you not intervene while my sister is being bullied? Zizi shouted towards Cheng Chimo. Kill them. Cheng Chimo's calm voice replied. The Special Forces soldiers stepped forward swiftly and executed the officers on the spot. Enter the city, Cheng Chimo instructed. As the procession moved forward, Cheng Chimo did not respond to Zizi's pleas. With a resigned expression, Zizi helped her sister Li Lixian onto the cart. Upon seeing Empress Zhangsun, Li Lixian lowered her head. I pay my respects to mother, she said. Empress Zhangsun took Li Lixian's hand and guided her to sit beside her. Turning slightly, she helped Li Lixian arrange her hair. Mother knows your thoughts. Relinquish them, Empress Zhangsun advised. Li Lixian remained silent, her head bowed. She understood she could not conceal her intentions from the Empress. She had come to confront Cheng Chimo, hoping he would strike her, prompting her mother to protect her and sever ties with Cheng Chimo. Yet, such a ploy seemed too trivial in the eyes of Cheng Chimo and Empress Zhangsun. Mother may be unaware of the Gu Dao sect's strength, but she knows you cannot contend with Cheng Chimo. Allow me to caution you. The Gu Dao sect is beyond your control, the Empress stated, wishing her daughter would recognize the futility of her ambitions. She hoped her daughter's fate would not mirror that of Li Ji. Mother, do you know how Cheng Chimo has tormented me? He kissed me while intoxicated, forcing liquor down my throat. You cannot imagine how revolting that was for me. I could not resist. I dared not resist, Li Lixian lamented. Rising, she surveyed the cart. Mother, do you not recall even a shred of past affection? Cheng Chimo has seized the Tang dynasty. You may choose to ignore it, but I cannot. My strength then was insufficient, but today is different. This place is surrounded. And with a single command, Cheng Chimo shall perish. Empress Zhangsun smiled wryly, recognizing her daughter's naivety. Does she truly believe Cheng Chimo is so easily vanquished? The procession entered the city as Cheng Chimo approached the cart housing Empress Zhangsun. Upon seeing Li Lixian, he smiled broadly. 3 members of the 6 doors have appeared, the third being the most formidable, right here in Lingnan Dao. This place has always been overlooked. Whenever there is a rebellion, the court dispatches troops to quell it. And any support is but a fanciful thought. I had not anticipated such capabilities from you, Cheng Chimo remarked, gazing at Li Lixian. Li Lixian met Cheng Chimo's gaze, unwavering. The two stared at each other for an extended moment. I shall not allow you to err. All officials in Lingnan Dao must die. Remain in the cart, and do not venture out, Cheng Chimo declared. Li Lixian scoffed. Do you truly think I would come unprepared? This city is already surrounded. With a mere command, you shall meet your demise. Cheng Chimo was at a loss for words. bemused by her naivety. Lingnan Dao is not a realm a mere girl can control. He seated himself beside the bed as Empress Zhongsun and Zizi departed to another chamber. Pour the tea, he instructed. Li Lixian's face darkened. Cheng Chumo had the audacity to demand she pour tea. With a cold smile, she grabbed the teapot and poured a cup, only to hurl the contents into Cheng Chumo's face. Drink up, Li Lixian taunted, reveling in her moment. What can you do to me? My death would mean nothing. If I perish, my mother will undoubtedly abandon you, and my sisters will follow suit. If my demise can awaken them, it would be worth it. Cheng Chumo seized Li Lixian's hand and drank deeply from the teapot, then forcefully pressed her down onto the bed, mouth to mouth, feeding her the tea. Li Lixian's eyes widened in terror. Not again, she screamed, flailing her arms towards Cheng Chumo. He simply pushed her head back gently. Li Lixian fell onto the bed, dazed. Cheng Chumo stood and cast a glance at her. You should consider yourself fortunate that you seldom leave the palace. If these individuals were assembled by you, no one would be able to rescue you. With that, he exited the cart. Empress Zhongsun and Zizi re-entered. Li Lixian clung to Empress Zhongsun, weeping. Woo-woo. It was just like this last time. Woo-woo, mother, he bullies me. She cried. Amused internally, Empress Zhongsun thought, my foolish daughter still does not comprehend the reality. Does she truly believe she can control Lingnan? Do not cry, mother is here. I will prepare delicious food for you. Empress Zhongsun reassured her before leaving the room. Leaving Li Lixian alone with Zizi. Zizi picked up a towel and gently wiped Li Lixian's face. Sister, the one in control here is not you, Zizi stated. Li Lixian remained unconvinced, insisting that he was indeed in control, that everyone followed his orders. Suddenly, a small snake slithered out of Li Lixian's sleeve, hissing at Zizi. Zizi turned pale with fear, frozen in place. Li Lixian affectionately patted Zizi's head. After my sister takes her revenge, we shall return to Chang'an, Li Lixian declared. Stepping down from the carriage. Stealthily, Li Lixian approached a grove where several figures clad in black knelt before her. We greet you, our sovereign, they intoned. Li Lixian nodded. Surround the city, she commanded. The black-clad figures complied. That afternoon, tens of thousands besieged the small city. In front of them crawled a myriad of serpents, insects, and vermin, blanketing the ground, while the city walls loomed dark and foreboding. Chapter 352. The true form revealed within the city. Cheng Chumo, upon entering, discovered that it was utterly devoid of inhabitants, a ghost town. This little fairy has quite the imagination, he mused. Empress Zhongsun remained speechless, surprised by the praise. Zizi, anxious and glancing around, expressed her fear of snakes. Mother, let us escape in a hot air balloon, she suggested. Empress Zhongsun attempted to pat Zizi's head, only to realize the child had grown too tall. Zizi, proud, held her head high, refusing to bow down. Exasperated, Empress Zhongsun turned her attention back to Cheng Chumo. What shall we do? She inquired. Cheng Chumo smiled. Let us change our attire. I wish to see who reveals themselves. Special forces provided several ordinary outfits. Once everyone was attired, a fierce blaze erupted within the small city. The invading creatures scattered in terror, but their speed was no match for the encroaching flames, which quickly consumed everything. At the north gate of the small city, 1,000 black-clad figures were barricaded when suddenly, a thick fog enveloped the area, rendering visibility null. Cheng Chumo's convoy departed through the north gate. As the mist dissipated, the figures re-emerged, their eyes bloodshot, weeping uncontrollably, ears ringing. The fog was toxic. 20 miles outside the small city, Yuan Tiangang dismounted his carriage. Before him stood 3 individuals, Sun Simiao, Long Gui, and an elderly man on a cow. I didn't expect you to join the fray, Long Gui remarked with a smile. Yuan Tiangang nodded, and the 4 exchanged knowing glances before parting ways. Having not seen Cheng Chumo. Mother, they are formidable, Zizi observed. There are things or individuals you are unaware of. The world may seem chaotic, yet it is governed by unseen forces manipulating the chessboard of noble houses, Empress Zhongsun explained. Cheng Chumo remained silent, his current status granting him insight into many matters, leaving him feeling powerless. Ordinarily, as emperor, nothing should perplex him, yet he realized he was mistaken. Some issues lay beyond his control. It felt as if a pair of eyes were perpetually watching the Tang dynasty from the shadows. Really? I do as I please each day, Zizi retorted. Empress Zhongsun exchanged a glance with Cheng Chumo, who nodded. When you become empress, you will perceive things differently, she replied. Zizi looked to Cheng Chumo. Brother-in-law, will you grant me the title of empress? I wish to see too, she implored. Ha ha ha, Cheng Chumo laughed heartily. Very well, I shall make you Empress Qing. Empress Qing? Zizi echoed, her little face scrunching up, realizing how similar it sounded to a concubine's title. She glanced at Empress Zhongsun and then back at Cheng Chumo. I don't feel anything right now, she admitted. Empress Zhongsun chuckled wryly. It cannot happen so swiftly. Chumo, do you truly believe that the 6 doors were established by Li Shimin? She inquired. Cheng Chumo shook his head. It is impossible that Li Shimin founded them. He lacked the capability to control Lingnan. This region is no trifling matter, possessing military forces from the pre-Qin era and renowned officials exiled here. As for their morality, I shall not comment. From my vantage point, there is no distinction of good or evil among people. This place is exceedingly perilous. Guanyin Bai, take Zizi back to Gansu. Cheng Chumo instructed. Empress Changsun nodded. She had merely sought a respite and wished to avoid further complications. Do not burden Xian'er. She means no harm, Empress Changsun added. Rest assured, Cheng Chumo replied. Reluctantly, Cici followed Empress Changsun away. 3 days later, the inferno in the small city was extinguished. Li Lixian stood in shock, surveying the desolation. Where's Cheng Chumo? Where's mother? Where's my sister? She wept, her voice trembling. The city lay in utter darkness, devoid of life. Your Majesty, the city is empty. Only countless bones remain, a black-clad figure reported. Li Lixian felt the world spin around her. How could this be? I only wished to avenge myself against Cheng Chumo. I never intended to kill him or harm my mother, she lamented. Dugo approached, hands clasped behind his back, flanked by dozens of unmasked individuals who had seized control of Lingnan. You are quite impressive. To eliminate Cheng Chumo on your first attempt is commendable, Dugo remarked with a smile, devoid of the previous deference. With tears in her eyes, Li Lixian fixed her gaze on Dugo. Are you seeking death? Someone. Kill her, she cried. Yet no one moved. The black-clad figure stood behind Dugo. In that moment, Li Lixian comprehended everything. She understood why her mother claimed he could not control Lingnan. The waters there ran deep. Recalling Cheng Chumo's warning against leaving the carriage, she realized her mother and Cheng Chumo had long known she was being used. They had kept her close to protect her. Yet she had foolishly believed she held dominion over Lingnan. Do you know how every dynasty has treated Lingnan? Dugo laughed, bemused by her naivety. Did she truly think the people of Lingnan would accept a woman who could barely fend for herself? Li Lixian lunged at Dugo in a fit of rage. He responded with a swift kick to her abdomen, sending her crashing to the ground, blood spilling from her mouth as she clutched her belly, gritting her teeth in silence. Dugo crouched beside her, patting her face. The policies of successive dynasties towards Lingnan have always been one of neglect. Do you know why? Because they dared not strike. You have burned your mother alive, incinerated the emperor of the Tang dynasty, and your own sister. Haha, Dugo taunted. Li Lixian coughed up blood and lost consciousness. She is nominally my sovereign. I advise you not to act recklessly, a middle-aged man interjected. Dugo stood, genuinely hesitant to harm Li Lixian. The people of Lingnan consented to act against Cheng Chumo, but had not agreed to harm Li Lixian. I, the chief steward, have decided to marry Li Lixian. Do any of you oppose this? Dugo declared, surveying the assembly. After a moment of silence, they eventually nodded in agreement. Not wishing to be labeled as betrayers of their sovereign. I object, a middle-aged man stepped forward. It was Du He. He approached Dugo, gazing complexly at the prone Li Lixian. They were meant to be together. Fate is cruel. Ah, brother, have you finally come to your senses? Dugo chuckled. He stepped forward and embraced his younger brother. Over the years, his brother had endured much suffering, and Li Lixian could only marry the elder brother, merely in name. In truth, she belonged to you, Dugo remarked. He needed Li Lixian to hold that title, indifferent to the person she was. Dewey nodded, excitement gleaming in his eyes. Thank you, elder brother, Dewey said. Isn't it a bit premature for you to be discussing such matters? Long Gue interjected as the four approached. Dugo was startled, pushing his brother away and eyeing the newcomers warily. How had they managed to arrive so silently, surrounded by his own men? Young man, your ambitions are considerable, yet I have not seen any virtue in you, the elder on the bull remarked. Chapter 353. Are you brave enough to reclaim what has been lost? Huh. Whether I possess virtue or not is not for your judgment, Dugo retorted. Impudent boy. You should let your uncle Du Chuk's master discuss matters with us. Today, we shall spare your life, Long Gue declared, with little patience for further dialogue. He flicked his hand, sending a golden knife coin flying like lightning, embedding itself near Dugo's heart, just a fraction deeper, and it would have pierced through. Dugo gazed at Long Gue in terror. Long Gue, however, wore a disdainful expression, questioning whether such a person was worthy to be a rival to his disciples. Prepare your uncle's master. I shall seek him shortly, Long Gue instructed. Sun Simiao approached Li Lixian, crouching to place a pill in her mouth. Li Lixian pondered deeply. Sun Simiao helped her to her feet, thinking how foolish she was to have been bullied upon venturing outside. Among Cheng Chumo's wives, only Li Lixian desired to confront him. Sun Simiao casually discarded another pill, which landed and emitted a cloud of smoke. As the mist dissipated, Long Gue and his companions vanished. Dugo's expression turned grim. Withdraw, he commanded. Back at the estate, in the rear garden, an elderly man practiced swordplay. Nephew pays respects to uncle. Dugo and Duhe greeted. The elder halted his movements, sheathing his sword. Have all matters been settled? Du Chuk inquired. Dugo recounted the events to Du Chuk, who chuckled upon hearing the tale. No wonder my master mentioned this would be challenging. I did not expect all four of those old fellows to show up, Du Chuk mused, dismissing the threat posed by Long Gue and his companions. Dugo wished to caution his uncle against underestimating them, but before he could speak, Du Chuk waved him off. Having followed my master in rigorous training for 30 years, there are few in the Tang dynasty who dare to contend with me. Those old fellows have long surpassed 100 years. What combat ability could they possibly possess? Remain calm and proceed according to the original plan. I have already contacted Zhang Shigui in Chang'an. Once we succeed here, he will march straight to Chang'an, Du Chuk outlined. Excitement gleamed in Dugo's eyes. He admired his father, who not only orchestrated the Xuanwu Gate incident, but also stabilized the situation when Li Shimin faced Li Jiansheng in a weaker position. He yearned to emulate his father. Yet, he only saw the glory of his father, oblivious to the reasons behind his untimely demise. You may go about your tasks. Du Chuk commanded, dismissing the two. Once they departed, Du Chuk's expression darkened. He had merely been putting on a facade before his juniors. In truth, he lacked the courage to confront the four ancient figures. It seemed he needed to return and seek his master's counsel, he thought to himself. On an unnamed mountain peak, a bald elder sat in meditation. Suddenly, he opened his eyes. It is beginning again, the bald elder muttered to himself before descending the mountain. In a dense forest in Lingnan, Cheng Chumo sat on a rock, a fire crackling before him. Li Lixian stood beside him, too timid to utter a word. You may eat, Cheng Chumo said, using a stick to retrieve a yellow clay ball from the fire. Breaking it open revealed a golden wild chicken. He tore off a drumstick for himself, while Li Lixian swallowed hard, her hunger overwhelming. Cheng Chumo glanced at her. Would you like some? He asked. Li Lixian could no longer restrain her tears, the experiences of this period too much to bear. If you had told me sooner, I could have utilized your identity to resolve this matter effectively. Yet you contemplated eliminating me. How should I deal with you now? Cheng Chumo scolded. Li Lixian squatted beside him, weeping, feeling utterly wronged. Cheng Chumo, however, was unmoved by her tears. Mistakes warranted punishment. Night fell, and Li Lixian lay beside Cheng Chumo, her stomach growling. I was wrong. Could you please give me something to eat? She pleaded, unable to withstand the pangs of hunger any longer. Cheng Chumo was resting when he heard her voice. Where did you err? He inquired. I should not have sought revenge, Li Lixian replied. Cheng Chumo's expression darkened. After a day of hunger, she still could not grasp the lesson. He took a sip from his water pouch and then, cradling her small head, poured some water into her mouth. Li Lixian's eyes widened in surprise. He released her head, and she appeared aggrieved, oddly not repulsed this time, gazing at him with a dazed innocence. Cheng Chumo found it amusing. This was how one should recognize their mistakes. He retrieved a chicken leg wrapped in leaves from his box. Taking a bite, Li Lixian's stomach growled. Cheng Chumo held the meat, signaling her to eat. With determination, she opened her mouth to reach for the morsel. Once it was in her mouth, satisfaction washed over her. Cheng Chumo offered her the chicken leg, and she devoured it hungrily. You were wrong in not discerning right from wrong. If I do not seize this kingdom, do you know what the outcome would be? None of your siblings would meet a good end. I do not deceive you. You can contemplate the reasons yourself, Cheng Chumo admonished. After finishing the chicken leg, Li Lixian beamed with joy. Being full was indeed the most exhilarating experience. She glanced at Cheng Chumo and let out a contented belch. I need water now, she said. Cheng Chumo handed her the water pouch, but she hesitated to accept it. Did you not drink first before feeding me? Li Lixian pointed out, her voice dwindling, her cheeks flushing. Through her experiences, Li Lixian had come to understand that it was not Cheng Chumo who usurped the Li Tang dynasty, but rather Li Ji who failed to maintain it. Cheng Chumo took a sip and lay still. Li Lixian, eyes closed, leaned closer. The two shared a kiss. And Li Lixian, feeling tender, extended her tongue, awaiting his response. Cheng Chumo embraced her, planting a fervent kiss on her lips. In the future, approach matters with clarity. Such errors must not recur, he advised. Li Lixian, her face flushed, nodded, pressing closer to him. They both donned their night clothes, feeling the warmth emanating from one another. Your Majesty, Li Lixian stammered. Cheng Chumo cradled her small head, their lips parting. Tomorrow, I shall accompany you to reclaim what has been lost. Do you dare? He proposed. Li Lixian gazed at him in astonishment. Was this truly the moment to discuss such matters? Suppressing her frustration, Li Lixian pondered what her sisters found appealing about him. The memory of being deceived made her cheeks flush with anger. It was her first experience of such humiliation. And even now, her stomach ached from that kick. I dare, Li Lixian asserted. Cheng Chumo chuckled softly, wrapping his arms around her. Controlling a sect is no trivial matter, especially the Gu sect, which requires a ruthless heart. Can you manage that? He inquired. Li Lixian shook her head gently. She knew she could not. Gansu Xiazhu will assist you. You need not worry, Cheng Chumo reassured her. Among women, Xiazhu was undoubtedly the most ruthless. Li Lixian nodded slightly. She had encountered Xiazhu, the steward of Gansu, who always wore a smile, and she had not witnessed her formidable side. The two of them drifted into a slumber. As dawn broke, the group resumed their meal, arriving at the Lingnan prefecture. Cheng Chumo's entourage strode confidently into the city. Upon receiving the news, Dugo let out a hearty laugh, declaring that they were courting death. Brother, do not act rashly. Cheng Chumo is not so easily slain, he cautioned. Dugo remained unconvinced, believing that Cheng Chumo, no matter how powerful, was merely a toothless tiger in Lingnan. There was no need to fear him. Chapter 354. Entering and exiting the city in a moment of clarity, Dugo realized that indeed, Cheng Chumo was not easy to kill. Even when trapped in a small city, he remained unfazed. No place is impenetrable, and Lingnan was no exception. Lingnan was unfamiliar territory for many. To illustrate a well-known fact, military training in Guangxi. Guangxi is part of Lingnan, a region known for its authenticity. Its combat prowess is not something formed overnight, but cultivated over generations. Emperor Qin Shi Huang's sacrificial rites at Mount Tai were dedicated to the war deity Qiyu. Lingnan was Qiyu's domain, the land of the Eastern Yi. Following the sacrificial rites, Qin Shi Huang faced harsh criticism from scholars. After the burning of books and burying of scholars, the scorn ceased. 40,000 Qin soldiers descended southward after the fall of the Qin dynasty. Successive rulers praised Qin Shi Huang while intensifying their oppression of Lingnan, knowing they could not allow the old Qin to rise again. Lingnan, once desolate, transformed when the 40,000 Qin soldiers arrived, yet they were unable to leave. It was not until the Ming dynasty that Lingnan received due attention. Thanks to the efforts of the parrot, who kept the fertile land from falling into neglect. The various tribes also recognized Li Lixian's return to the prefecture, remaining loyal to